Hey guys, welcome to Potter Paradox. If you like this alternate wizarding story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's start the story.
What if Harry wandered into Knockturn Alley at age 6 and was adopted by a vampire clan? Chapter 1, Blood Adoption. Harry Potter curled into a tight ball inside his cupboard under the stairs, trying to muffle his sobs with his threadbare blanket. His 6th birthday had come and gone without acknowledgement, just another miserable day with the Dursleys. Today had been worse than usual. Uncle Vernon had grabbed him by the arm so hard it left angry red marks when Harry accidentally dropped a plate while washing dishes. He'd been thrown into his cupboard without dinner, again. Worthless freak, Vernon had spat. Should have left you at an orphanage. Harry's stomach growled painfully. He hadn't eaten since yesterday's meager lunch. His entire body ached with hunger and the dull throb of new bruises. More than anything, he wished to be somewhere, anywhere, else. Please, he whispered into the darkness. I just want to go away. A strange tingling sensation spread through his body, starting in his chest and flowing outward to his fingertips. The air around him seemed to compress, squeezing him from all sides. Harry gasped, panic rising in his throat as the darkness of the cupboard twisted and warped around him. Then, with a soft pop, he vanished. The sensation of being squeezed through a narrow tube lasted only seconds before Harry tumbled onto cold, damp cobblestones. He blinked, disoriented by the sudden change. Gone was his cupboard. Instead, he found himself in a narrow, dimly lit alleyway. Crooked buildings leaned precariously on either side, their windows dark and uninviting. A sickly yellow glow from scattered lanterns cast long shadows across the unfamiliar street. Where am I? Harry whispered, his voice small and frightened. He pushed himself to his feet, wincing at the pain in his bruised arm. The night air bit through his oversized hand-me-downs, Dudley's cast-offs that hung like sacks from his skinny frame. Distant voices and strange noises echoed from somewhere deeper in the warren of twisting passages. Harry took a tentative step forward, then another. His worn-out trainers, held together with tape, splashed through puddles of questionable liquids. He had no idea where to go or what to do. The Dursleys would be furious when they discovered him missing, if they even noticed at all. Lost, little one. Harry jumped at the raspy voice. A hunched figure emerged from the shadows of a nearby doorway. In the dim light, Harry could make out a face covered in warts, yellowed teeth protruding from thin lips as the stranger smiled. Such a small boy, all alone in Knockturn Alley. Dangerous place for children. Harry backed away, his heart hammering in his chest. I'm not lost. My family's waiting for me. The lie sounded pathetic even to his own ears. The stranger cackled, a sound like breaking glass that sent shivers down Harry's spine. No one waits for anyone in Knockturn Alley, boy. Perhaps you'd like to come with old Borgin. I know a place where little boys can be useful. A gnarled hand reached for Harry's shoulder. He flinched away, stumbling backward until his back hit a wall. There was nowhere to run. Please, leave me alone, Harry whispered, closing his eyes as the man drew closer. The child said no. A new voice, smooth as silk but cold as ice, cut through the night. Harry's eyes flew open to see a tall figure standing between him and the hunched man. The newcomer wore a cloak that seemed to absorb the darkness around it. Even in the poor light, Harry could see the stranger was impossibly pale with dark hair cascading down their back. Borgin took an immediate step back, his demeanor changing instantly from predatory to deferential. Lady Nightshade, he said, voice trembling. I meant no disrespect. I was merely offering assistance to this lost child. Your assistance is neither required nor desired. The woman, Lady Nightshade, didn't raise her voice, yet it carried with unmistakable authority. This boy is now under my protection. Leave. The hunched man didn't need to be told twice. He scurried away, disappearing into the shadows of Knockturn Alley without another word. Harry remained pressed against the wall, unsure if his situation had improved or worsened. The woman turned to face him, and he gasped. Her eyes were the most unusual color, a deep crimson that seemed to glow in the darkness. Her face was beautiful but alien, with sharp cheekbones and skin so pale it appeared almost translucent. "What is your name, child?" she asked, her voice gentler now but still carrying an edge that made Harry shiver. Harry. Harry Potter." Something flashed in those crimson eyes, recognition, surprise, and something else Harry couldn't identify. "Harry Potter," she repeated, studying his face intently before her gaze flickered to his forehead. "The boy who lived." How unexpected. Harry frowned in confusion. "You know me? Every magical being in Britain knows you, child." She knelt to his level, those unnerving eyes examining every inch of his face. "But the question remains, what is Harry Potter doing alone in Knockturn Alley, dressed in rags and bearing the marks of mistreatment?" Harry instinctively tried to hide the bruises on his arm, but her gaze had already catalogued every injury. Something in her calm assessment made him feel he shouldn't, lie. "I don't know how I got here," he admitted. "I was in my cupboard, and then I was just here." "Your cupboard?" Her voice remained level, but Harry sensed a dangerous undercurrent. "Where I sleep. Under the stairs." A flash of something terrible crossed her face, anger so cold it burned, before her expression smoothed into impassivity again. "I see." She extended a slender hand. "I am Lady Elisabetta Nightshade. Come with me, Harry Potter. This is no place for a child, especially not one of your significance." Harry hesitated. Uncle Vernon had drilled into him never to talk to strangers, but then again, Uncle Vernon had also called him worthless and locked him in a cupboard. This woman had saved him from the scary man, and something about her, despite her strange eyes and otherworldly presence, made him feel safer than he had in years. He placed his small hand in hers. Her skin was cool to the touch, like marble left in shade. "Where are we going?" he asked. "Somewhere safe," she replied. "My home is not far from here. We will feed you, tend to your injuries, and then decide what is to be done." Lady Elisabetta led Harry deeper into the twisted passages of Knockturn Alley. He kept close to her side, noting how other late-night denizens of the alley scattered at their approach, melting into doorways or averting their eyes. Whoever this woman was, she commanded respect, or fear, from everyone they encountered. They stopped before an unmarked door set into what appeared to be a solid brick wall. No handle or knocker adorned its surface. Lady Elisabetta pressed her palm against the center of the door, which shimmered briefly before swinging inward. "Enter freely and of your own will, Harry Potter," she said, the words carrying a ritualistic weight he didn't understand. Harry stepped inside, and the door sealed seamlessly behind them. They stood in a narrow corridor lit by floating orbs that emitted a soft blue glow. The passage sloped downward, leading deeper underground. "The Nightshade Sanctuary has existed beneath London for 5 centuries, Lady Elisabetta explained as they descended. Few wizards know of its location, and fewer still have been invited inside." "Wizards?" Harry blurted out. "Like magic?" Lady Elisabetta stopped, turning to face him with a look of genuine surprise. "You don't know?" she asked. "About magic? About what you are?" Harry shook his head. "What am I?" Her crimson eyes narrowed. "You are a wizard, Harry Potter. And quite a famous one, despite your young age." She resumed walking, her steps silent against the stone floor. "It seems there is much you have been denied, including knowledge of your heritage. This explains much." The corridor opened into a vast underground chamber that took Harry's breath away. Elegant archways supported a ceiling so high he could barely see it. Ornate chandeliers hung from above, filled with the same blue flames that had lit their path. The walls were lined with tapestries and paintings whose subjects, Harry blinked in astonishment, moved within their frames. Several figures turned at their entrance. Like Lady Elisabetta, they all possessed the same pale complexion and fluid grace. One man stepped forward, tall and severe, with short dark hair and eyes that matched Lady Elisabetta's crimson gaze. "Mother," he said, voice tight with disapproval. "You bring a human child into our sanctuary? Explain yourself." "Mind your tone, Lysander," Lady Elisabetta replied coolly. "This is no ordinary child. This is Harry Potter." Murmurs rippled through the gathered figures. Lysander's eyes widened as he looked down at Harry with new interest. "The boy who lived," he said. "Here. How?" "Accidental magic brought him to Knockturn Alley. I found him being accosted by Borgin." Lady Elisabetta's hand rested protectively on Harry's shoulder. "He bears signs of sustained abuse and neglect. He knows nothing of magic or his place in our world." Lysander's jaw tightened. "So you brought him here? To a vampire sanctuary? Have you lost your mind, mother? The wizard authorities have failed this child," Elisabetta cut him off sharply. "Look at him, Lysander. Really look." Harry shrunk under the scrutiny of Lysander's intense gaze. The word vampire echoed in his mind, but strangely, he felt no fear, only a numb sort of surprise that matched the surreal quality of everything happening around him. "He needs food, clean clothes, and medical attention," Elisabetta continued. "After that, we will convene the council to determine our course of action." Lysander looked like he wanted to argue further but simply inclined his head in reluctant agreement. "As you wish, mother." A younger-looking woman with auburn hair stepped forward. "I'll take care of him, Lady Elisabetta." "Thank you, Serena." Elisabetta knelt again to Harry's level. "This is Serena. She will help you bathe, find clothes that fit, and make sure you're fed. I must speak with the council members, but I will return soon. You're safe here, Harry Potter." Harry nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. Serena offered her hand with a kind smile, and he took it, allowing her to lead him away from the main chamber. "Vampires are real," he finally managed to ask as they walked through a series of elegant corridors. Serena laughed, a surprisingly warm sound. "Very real, little wizard. But don't worry, we don't bite. Well, not children, anyway." She winked, and Harry found himself smiling despite his confusion and fear. Something about her put him at ease. "Are you going to send me back to the Dursleys?" he asked, the question that worried him most. Serena's expression darkened. "The Dursleys, are those the people who did this to you?" She gestured to his bruises and ill-fitting clothes. Harry nodded. "Then no, little one. I don't believe Lady Elisabetta would ever allow you to return to such people." Her voice softened. "Now, let's get you cleaned up. You've had quite a night." While Harry was being tended to, Elisabetta faced the gathered members of the Nightshade Council in their private chamber. 5 ancient vampires sat at a circular table, with Elisabetta at the head and Lysander at her right hand. "You risk everything by bringing Harry Potter here," said Lord Casimir, the oldest among them with skin like parchment and eyes that had witnessed millennia. "The wizards will turn the country upside down looking for their precious savior. The boy was abandoned to abusive muggles who kept him ignorant of his heritage," Elisabetta countered. "Dumbledore has failed in his duty to the child. Someone intercepted Potter before he could enter the wizarding world proper. And that someone is to be us?" Lysander asked incredulously. "Mother, we maintain our position in magical society through careful neutrality. Taking the boy who lived, would give us unprecedented leverage," Elisabetta finished. "Think beyond your immediate concerns, my son. The child who vanquished the Dark Lord, raised by the Nightshade clan. Neither the Ministry nor Dumbledore would dare move against us. Unless they believe we've corrupted their savior," remarked Lady Vanya, her silvery hair framing a face that appeared no older than 30 despite her 4 centuries. "The prejudice against our kind runs deep." "Perhaps it's time that changed," Elisabetta said. "The boy needs protection, education, and a family. We can provide all three. You speak of adoption, Casimir observed. A blood adoption? It's been centuries since a human child was brought into a vampire clan. It would be unprecedented in modern times, Elisabetta agreed. But not forbidden by our laws. Lysander slammed his palm on the table. This isn't about the boy at all, is it? This is about your ambitions for our clan's standing. My ambitions have always been for our survival, Elisabetta corrected him sharply. The winds are changing, Lysander. Tensions build in the wizarding world. Voldemort may be gone, but his ideals linger. When conflict erupts again, and it will, where will our kind stand? Perpetually in the shadows, or with influence enough to protect our interests? Silence fell over the council as they considered her words. There is another consideration, Lady Vanya said quietly. The boy's magic. Did you sense it, Elisabetta? It's extraordinary, even untrained. Elisabetta nodded. Raw potential unlike anything I've felt in centuries. And there's something else, a darkness attached to him, centered on that scar. Something unnatural. All the more reason to proceed with caution, Casimir warned. Or all the more reason to act decisively, Elisabetta countered. I propose a blood adoption. Not full transformation, the boy is too young, but enough to bind him to our clan, grant him certain protections, and place him under our guidance until he comes of age. The council members exchanged glances. Even Lysander looked thoughtful rather than outright opposed. It would need to be his choice, Vanya said finally. Freely given consent, even from one so young. Of course, Elisabetta agreed. I would never force such a bond. And what of his magical education, asked Casimir. Would you deny him Hogwarts when the time comes? No. When he turns 11, he will attend. But he'll go as Harry Nightshade Potter, with the full protection of our clan behind him. The council deliberated for hours, weighing risks and benefits, until finally, a consensus emerged. They would offer Harry a choice, return to the wizarding world under Dumbledore's distant protection or join the Nightshade clan as family. When Elisabetta returned to find Harry, she was pleased to see the transformation. Cleaned up, dressed in proper clothes scaled down to fit his small frame, and with a full meal in his stomach, Harry looked more like the wizard child he was meant to be. His remarkable green eyes were alert and curious as he explored the chamber where Serena had left him. Harry, Elisabetta called softly. He turned, a smile lighting his face that caught her off guard. She had expected wariness, fear even, not this immediate trust. Lady Elisabetta. Serena showed me moving pictures and told me about magic and Hogwarts and how my parents were wizards too. The words tumbled out with childish excitement. Elisabetta sat beside him on a cushioned bench. Yes, your parents were powerful wizards. James and Lily Potter died protecting you from a dark wizard when you were just a baby. Harry's smile faded. Aunt Petunia said they died in a car crash. That I was a burden they didn't want. Cold anger flared in Elisabetta's chest. Your aunt lied, Harry. Your parents loved you deeply, enough to give their lives for you. Harry absorbed this, his young face solemn. Why did no one tell me? Those responsible for your care failed you, she said simply. But now you have a choice to make. She explained what the council had discussed, the option to join their clan through blood adoption. She was careful to use terms a child could understand, explaining what it would mean. He would remain human but gain certain vampire traits, protection, education, and most importantly, a family that would never abandon or mistreat him. Would I be a vampire? Harry asked, his eyes wide. Not exactly, Elisabetta explained. You would be what we call a damper, part human, part vampire. You would still grow up, eat normal food, walk in sunlight. But you would gain enhanced strength, sharper senses, and a connection to our clan magic. Harry considered this with surprising thoughtfulness for a 6-year-old. Would I have to hurt people? Elisabetta smiled. No, child. The Nightshade clan has not hunted humans for centuries. We have other methods to sustain ourselves. Harry nodded, then asked the question that truly mattered to him, would you be my family? For real? Yes, Harry. I would become your blood mother, Lysander your blood brother. The clan would be your family in every way that matters. Harry didn't hesitate. Then I want to stay. The blood adoption ritual was prepared in the ancient sanctum beneath the main chambers. Harry stood in the center of a complex circular pattern inlaid in silver on the black marble floor. Candles burned with blue flames at strategic points around the circle. The entire council was present, along with Serena and 3 other clan members who would serve as witnesses. Elisabetta entered the circle, carrying a ceremonial silver dagger and goblet. Lysander stood directly opposite her, his face impassive but his eyes revealing inner conflict. Harry James Potter, Elisabetta began, her voice resonating with power in the chamber. Do you come freely to join the bloodline of Nightshade, to take our name alongside your own, to accept our protection and guidance, to honor our ways while walking your own path? I do, Harry said, his small voice surprisingly steady. As matriarch of the Nightshade clan, I offer you my blood freely given. Elisabetta drew the dagger across her palm, allowing dark crimson droplets to fall into the goblet. Blood of my blood, to forge a bond unbreakable by distance, time, or magic. She passed the dagger to Lysander, who hesitated only a moment before making a similar cut on his palm. As heir of the Nightshade clan, I offer you my blood, freely given, he said, his voice deeper but carrying the same resonance as his mother's. Blood of my blood, to acknowledge you as kin, to stand as brother in magic and purpose. His blood joined Elisabetta's in the goblet. When it was half filled, Elisabetta knelt before Harry. A small cut is needed from you, she explained gently. It will sting for only a moment. Harry nodded bravely and extended his small hand. Elisabetta made the smallest nick possible on his palm, adding 3 drops of his blood to the mixture. She then traced runic symbols on his forehead, cheeks, and over his heart with the combined blood. By blood freely given and received, we bind you to our line. No longer alone, no longer unprotected. From this night forward, you are Harry Nightshade Potter, son of my blood, heir to 2 legacies. She offered him the goblet. Drink, but only 3 sips. More would be dangerous for one so young. Harry took the heavy goblet in both hands and did as instructed, taking 3 small sips of the metallic-tasting liquid. The effect was immediate. He gasped as warmth spread through his body, followed by a tingling sensation that intensified until it became almost painful. The runes drawn on his skin glowed with blue light, sinking beneath the surface as the magic took hold. For a moment, Harry's famous lightning scar flared with an angry red light, seeming to fight against the ritual. A high, thin scream echoed through the chamber, a sound that came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Several council members stepped back in shock. Hold fast, Elisabetta commanded, placing her hand over Harry's scar. The foreign magic resists, but it cannot prevail against blood freely given. She began chanting in an ancient language, her voice joined by Lysander's and then the other council members. The red glow battled with the blue for several tense seconds before the blue light engulfed it completely. Harry cried out once, then collapsed into Elisabetta's waiting arms as the ritual completed. It is done, she announced. He is Nightshade now. Casimir stepped forward, examining the unconscious boy with concern. That resistance, I have never seen the like. What was it? A parasitic magic, Elisabetta said grimly, cradling Harry protectively. Something attached itself to him the night his parents died. The ritual has not destroyed it, but contained it, separated it from his core. This changes matters, Lysander said, his initial reluctance replaced by fierce protectiveness as he looked at the small boy who was now his blood brother. Whatever that was, it was dark. Powerfully dark. All the more reason he belongs with us, Elisabetta replied. Wizards would not know how to handle such magic without destroying the boy in the process. She carried Harry to a prepared chamber where he could rest and recover from the ritual. As she laid him on the bed, she noticed subtle changes already beginning. His perpetually messy hair now had a midnight sheen to it, his skin slightly paler, his features more defined. The famous lightning scar, while still visible, now looked more like an old wound than the angry red mark it had been. "Rest, my son," she whispered. "Your new life begins when you wake." The news of Harry Potter's disappearance sent shockwaves through the wizarding world. Albus Dumbledore, alerted by the failure of monitoring charms he'd placed around Privet Drive, arrived to find the Dursleys unconcerned by their nephew's absence. Vernon Dursley's dismissive, "good riddance to bad rubbish," chilled the old wizard to the bone as he realized how badly his plans had gone awry. "You were supposed to protect the boy," Dumbledore said, uncharacteristic anger edging his voice. "He was your family." "That freak was no family of mine," Petunia snapped. "We took him in, fed him, clothed him, abused him," Dumbledore cut in. "Neglected him. Failed the most basic duty of care. He left the Dursleys with their memories modified, though he couldn't bring himself to erase their guilt entirely." Within hours, the Order of the Phoenix, reconvened for emergency purposes, launched a desperate search. Magical trackers failed. Location spells fizzled. It was as if Harry Potter had vanished from magical detection entirely, or was being protected by magic ancient enough to thwart even Dumbledore's considerable skills. "The blood protection should have prevented this," McGonagall said as they gathered in Dumbledore's office. "How could he just disappear?" "Accidental magic," Dumbledore theorized. "Powerful accidental magic born of desperation. I fear we greatly underestimated both the Dursleys' cruelty and Harry's magical potential." "So he could be anywhere," Remus Lupin said heavily. "Merlin, Albus, if anything happens to James and Lily's son." "We will find him," Dumbledore insisted. "We must." But days turned to weeks, and weeks to months with no sign of the boy who lived. Harry woke the morning after the ritual to find his world transformed in more ways than one. His vision, previously dependent on his round glasses, was now crystal clear. Sounds he never would have noticed before, the subtle shift of fabric as someone moved in a distant room, the minute scratching of a mouse behind the walls, came to him with perfect clarity. Scents too, rich and varied, told him stories about his surroundings he'd never imagined possible. Most startling was his reflection. The boy who looked back from the mirror was recognizably Harry Potter, but with subtle enhancements. His perpetually unruly hair now fell in silky waves. His famous green eyes seemed to glow faintly from within. His scar, while still visible, had faded to a silvery line. "The changes will become more pronounced as you grow," Elisabetta explained, watching him examine himself. "Your human magic and vampire heritage will integrate more fully over time." "Will I need blood?" Harry asked, both fascinated and nervous about his new state. "Not for many years," she assured him. "When you reach maturity, you will develop a need for blood, but far less than a full vampire. Until then, certain rare foods will satisfy the emerging need, rare meats, special potions we will teach you to brew." Life in the Nightshade Sanctuary quickly settled into a routine that gave Harry, for the first time, a sense of stability and purpose. Mornings were devoted to basic education, reading, writing, mathematics, and history, both magical and mundane. Afternoons brought magical theory, taught primarily by Elisabetta herself, who proved to be a demanding but patient teacher. "Magic is intention shaped by will and focused through knowledge," she instructed, guiding him through the basics of channeling his considerable raw power. "Wizards use wands to focus their intent. Vampires use blood and will. You, my son, have the potential to master both approaches." Evenings often found Harry in the company of Lysander, whose initial resentment had quickly given way to fascination with his new brother's hybrid abilities. While still stern and demanding, Lysander proved surprisingly adept at teaching Harry the physical aspects of his new heritage, enhanced speed, strength, and reflexes that required training to control properly. Again, Lysander commanded as Harry picked himself up from the training room floor for what felt like the 100th time. Your body can move faster than your mind currently allows. You must learn to think at vampire speed. Harry grimaced, wiped blood from his lip, and resumed his stance. I'm trying. Try harder, Lysander said, but the slight quirk of his mouth betrayed his approval at Harry's persistence. By his 7th birthday, Harry had already mastered wandless levitation and basic elemental manipulation, skills that would have astonished the wizarding world, where wandless magic was considered the domain of only the most powerful adult wizards. His vampire heritage enhanced his magical core, while the ritual's containment of the dark presence in his scar seemed to have freed up magical pathways previously blocked or corrupted. He's progressing faster than I anticipated, Elisabetta admitted to the council. His magical signature is unlike anything I've encountered, neither fully wizard nor vampire, but a harmonious blend that seems to take strength from both. And the foreign magic? Casimir inquired. Contained, but not eliminated, she replied. I've consulted the ancient texts. I believe it may be a soul fragment, a Horcrux, though how such abomination came to attach to a child. The implication sent a chill through the chamber. If Voldemort had created a Horcrux, potentially multiple Horcruxes, his reported demise was temporary at best. The boy must be protected at all costs, Vanya said. Not just for his own sake, but for all of us. If the Dark Lord returns and discovers the boy in our custody. By then, Harry will be ready, Elisabetta assured them. We have 5 years before his Hogwarts letter arrives. 5 years to prepare him for both worlds. As Harry's training intensified, so did the clan's protective measures. The sanctuary's wards were reinforced, ancient defenses reactivated. Selected clan members established new identities in the magical world to gather intelligence on the ongoing search for the boy who lived, which had diminished in urgency but never entirely ceased. They learned that Dumbledore still searched, though more quietly now. The Ministry had officially classified Harry as location unknown, rather than missing, a subtle distinction that acknowledged the likelihood he was alive but hidden. Various factions within magical society spun theories ranging from plausible to absurd about the boy's whereabouts. None suspected he resided beneath London itself, growing in power and knowledge under vampire tutelage. By his 8th birthday, Harry had begun venturing outside the sanctuary under careful disguise, glamours that altered his appearance combined with enchanted contacts that hid his distinctive eyes. These carefully supervised excursions into both magical and Muggle London helped him understand the worlds he would eventually have to navigate. Remember, Elisabetta cautioned during his first visit to Diagon Alley, observe everything, reveal nothing. Information is power, and anonymity is protection. Harry nodded seriously, already adept at fading into the background despite his natural presence. He watched wizard children his age with curiosity, noting their carefree attitudes and limited awareness of their surroundings. They're so loud, he whispered to Elisabetta. And they don't notice anything. Most wizard children are raised in insulation from both danger and consequence, she replied. You have had different lessons. Indeed, Harry's education had expanded to include politics, etiquette, and the complex relationships between magical species. He learned of the Ministry's restrictions on dark creatures, the prejudice vampires and werewolves faced, and the precarious position his clan maintained through careful diplomacy and strategic alliances. Knowledge of all perspectives is essential, Elisabetta taught him. Wizard, vampire, goblin, house elf, each race sees the world through different eyes. Understanding these perspectives gives you power that few possess. Harry absorbed these lessons eagerly. The mistreatment he'd suffered with the Dursleys had given him an innate empathy for the marginalized, while his vampire adoption had shown him that family transcended blood, or at least, blood in the conventional sense. At 9, Harry experienced his first true challenge to clan security. Lord Erebus Sanguis, a powerful vampire lord from the continent with radical views on vampire-wizard relations, arrived uninvited at the sanctuary. Unlike the Nightshade clan's policy of careful coexistence, Sanguis advocated vampire supremacy, the subjugation of wizards under vampire rule. Harry was training with Lysander when the sanctuary's alarm signaled an unauthorized entrance. Lysander immediately moved to shield his younger brother. "Stay behind me," he ordered. "If I tell you to run, you go to Mother's private chambers and activate the emergency ward." "Understood." Harry nodded, his enhanced senses already picking up the tension radiating through the sanctuary. They made their way to the main chamber in time to see Elisabetta confronting a tall, imposing vampire with silver-streaked black hair and a cruel smile. "Elisabetta, my dear," Sandwith said, his voice carrying a faint Eastern European accent. "Your hospitality leaves much to be desired." "No welcome for an old friend?" "We have never been friends, Erebus," Elisabetta replied coolly. "State your business and then leave. You are not welcome here." Sandwith's gaze drifted past her to where Harry stood partially concealed behind Lysander. His nostrils flared subtly. "Interesting," he murmured. "I had heard rumors, but dismissed them as fantasy. The great Nightshade clan harboring a human child. But not just any human child, if my senses don't deceive me." Harry felt a pressure against his mind, a subtle probing that his training instantly recognized as an attempt at mental invasion. He slammed his mental shields into place as Elisabetta had taught him, pushing back against the intrusion with surprising force for one so young. Sandwith's eyes widened fractionally. "Impressive. The boy has been well trained." His smile turned predatory. "But his scent, most unusual. Human, yes, but with the distinctive Nightshade bloodline and, something else. Something powerful and dark." "My son's heritage is none of your concern," Elisabetta said, moving to block Sandwith's view of Harry. "You have overstayed your non-existent welcome, Erebus. Your son." Sandwith laughed, the sound devoid of warmth. "Blood adoption, then. How quaint, and how potentially useful. Does the wizarding world know you've taken their precious savior and turned him into a half-breed?" Harry tensed, but years of training kept him from reacting visibly. Lysander's hand on his shoulder tightened in warning. "I wonder what they would pay to have him returned," Sandwith continued. "Or perhaps Lord Voldemort's remaining followers would offer a higher price." In an instant, the atmosphere in the chamber changed. Where tension had simmered before, now deadly intent crackled like electricity. Elisabetta's posture shifted subtly, a change imperceptible to human eyes but clear to any vampire as a pre-attack stance. "You threaten my son in my own sanctuary," she said, her voice dangerously soft. "Consider carefully your next words, Erebus. They may be your last." Council members and clan guards had silently appeared throughout the chamber, positioning themselves strategically. Sandwith glanced around, reassessing his situation with the calculating precision of a predator. "A threat?" "No, merely an observation." His tone remained casual, but he had taken a step back. "I simply find it fascinating how far the mighty Nightshade clan has fallen, adopting wizards, hiding from their world rather than ruling it." "Our definition of strength differs from yours," Elisabetta replied. "Now leave, or be removed." For a tense moment, it seemed Sandwith might challenge her. Then he inclined his head in a mockery of respect. "As you wish, Lady Nightshade. But remember this, times are changing. Old powers stir. When wizards and vampires must finally choose sides, your unusual family may find itself unwelcome in either world." His gaze found Harry again. "We will meet again, young Harry Potter. Your destiny has been merely postponed, not rewritten." With that ominous declaration, he departed, escorted by 4 of the clan's most powerful guards to ensure he truly left. Once he was gone, Elisabetta immediately called an emergency council meeting. Harry, despite protests from some members, was included. "This concerns him directly," Elisabetta stated firmly. "He is old enough to understand the dangers. Sandwith will spread word of the boy's presence," Casimir warned. "Our secrecy is compromised." He has only suspicions, not proof, Lysander countered. And who would believe him? The notion that Harry Potter has been living with vampires for 3 years would be dismissed as fantasy. Nevertheless, we must accelerate our preparations, Elisabetta decided. Harry's training must intensify. Sandwich is dangerous, but he has inadvertently reminded us of a greater threat, Voldemort's eventual return. Harry, listening quietly, finally spoke up. He said my destiny was postponed, not rewritten. What did he mean? The council members exchanged glances before Elisabetta answered. There was a prophecy, Harry, made before your birth. It spoke of a child born as the 7th month dies, marked by the Dark Lord as his equal, with the power to vanquish him. That child was you. Harry touched his scar instinctively. So I'm supposed to defeat Voldemort? For good. Prophecies are tricky things, Vanya interjected gently. They reveal possible paths, not certainties. But yes, you and Voldemort are connected by fate and by magic, including the fragment we contained during your adoption ritual. Then I need to be ready, Harry said with determination that belied his 9 years. I want to increase my training. All of it, magic, combat, politics, everything. Elisabetta smiled, pride evident in her expression. And so you shall, my son. So you shall. The following year passed in a blur of intensified training. Harry's days began before dawn and often ended well after midnight, his hybrid nature requiring less sleep than a normal child. His magical education expanded to include not just the standard Hogwarts curriculum but ancient vampire magic, wandless casting, and even the basics of blood magic, carefully supervised and ethically applied. Combat training with Lysander grew more demanding, incorporating not just physical skills but tactical thinking and battlefield awareness. Harry learned to use his enhanced senses as weapons, to move with preternatural speed, to channel magic through his body to augment his strength. Your greatest advantage will always be that opponents underestimate you, Lysander taught. You look human, young, harmless. Let them believe it, until it's too late. Political education came from Elisabetta herself, who schooled Harry in the complex dance of alliances and enmities that defined both vampire and wizard societies. He learned the major wizard bloodlines, their histories and prejudices. He studied the Wisengamot structure, ministry departments, and the hidden powers that truly controlled magical Britain. When you return to their world, you will be both Harry Potter, their savior, and Harry Nightshade, vampire heir, Elisabetta explained. Some will fear you, others will court you, most will attempt to use you. Trust few, observe all, commit to nothing without careful consideration. By his 10th birthday, Harry had developed into a remarkable hybrid of wizard and vampire. His magical core had nearly doubled in strength compared to what might have been expected of a wizard child his age. His physical abilities, while not yet at full vampire levels, far exceeded human norms. Most importantly, his mind had been trained in occlumency to such a degree that even Elisabetta struggled to breach his defenses. You are nearly ready, she told him on the night of his 10th birthday. In 1 year, your Hogwarts letter will arrive. The wizarding world will learn that Harry Potter still lives, though they will not immediately know what you have become. Will I have to hide who I am? Harry asked. My vampire family? Not hide, but perhaps. Introduce the concept gradually, Elisabetta advised. The prejudice against our kind runs deep. Being Harry Potter will open doors, but being Harry Nightshade may close some. Navigate carefully. I'm not ashamed of my family, Harry said firmly. Elisabetta touched his face gently. Nor should you be. But sometimes the wise warrior chooses when to reveal his true strength. As his 11th birthday approached, final preparations were made for Harry's re-emergence into the wizarding world. Gringotts was contacted discreetly, goblins being natural allies to vampires due to shared experiences with wizard discrimination. Harry's accounts were verified as active, with the Nightshade clan established as his magical guardians through ancient blood right laws that predated and superseded the Ministry's more recent regulations. Dumbledore, they learned, had been alerted to unusual activity surrounding the Potter accounts. The old wizard had renewed his search efforts, sensing that Harry Potter would soon re-emerge. Let him wonder, Elisabetta said with rare satisfaction. Let him worry about what has become of his precious savior while he left a child to suffer with those abusive muggles. 1 week before Harry's 11th birthday, Elisabetta took him to a hidden room deep within the sanctuary that he had never entered before. Inside, displayed on a velvet cushion, lay a wand of unusual design, darker than most, with intricate runes carved along its length. Every Nightshade heir receives a custom wand before their formal education begins, she explained. Yours is unique, Elder Wood, a core of vampire blood freely given by both Lysander and myself, bound with a single freely given phoenix tear. Harry accepted the wand with reverence. The moment his fingers closed around it, a surge of power rushed through him, neither the chaotic energy of pure wizard magic nor the cool precision of vampire abilities, but a perfect synthesis of both. Silver and crimson sparks erupted from the tip, swirling together in a display that illuminated the chamber. The wand chooses the wizard, it is said, Elisabetta observed. But in your case, Harry Nightshade Potter, the wand celebrates what you have chosen to become, bridge between two worlds, heir to two legacies, and master of your own destiny. Harry raised the wand in a formal salute he had been taught. I will honor both my names, he promised. And both my families. I know you will, Elisabetta said softly. Now, let us make final preparations. In 1 week's time, Harry Potter returns to the wizarding world, and nothing will ever be the same. On the morning of July 31, 1991, an owl arrived at the secret entrance to the Nightshade Sanctuary bearing a letter addressed in green ink, Mr. H. Potter location unknown. Harry accepted the letter with a smile, breaking the Hogwarts seal as his vampire family gathered around him. The journey he had been preparing for these past 5 years was about to begin in earnest. Ready? Elisabetta asked. Harry nodded, confidence and determination in his gaze. Ready. Chapter 2, Hogwarts bound. The Nightshade clan's entrance into Diagon Alley turned heads. Lady Elisabetta glided forward with aristocratic grace, her deep burgundy robes catching the morning sunlight. Beside her walked Harry, no longer the frightened 6-year-old but a confident young wizard-vampire hybrid. Lysander flanked Harry's other side, his perpetual scowl keeping curious onlookers at bay. They're staring, Harry muttered, though his enhanced senses had picked up the whispers from the moment they'd stepped through the leaky cauldron. Of course they are, Elisabetta replied smoothly. The boy who lived returns after a decade of absence, accompanied by strangers. Their curiosity is expected. Use it. Harry nodded, straightening his posture as he'd been taught. He wore custom-tailored robes of deep emerald that matched his eyes that now held a subtle luminescence visible to those who looked closely. His famous scar remained visible but faded to a silvery line, partially obscured by his sleek black hair that fell just past his ears. Is that, Harry Potter, where's he been all this, who are those people with, look at his eyes, the whispers grew as they progressed down the alley. Harry maintained the mask of calm he'd perfected, though his enhanced hearing caught every murmur, every gasp of recognition. Their first stop was Gringotts, where the goblins, unlike the wizards, showed no surprise at the party's arrival. Lady Nightshade, the head teller acknowledged with a respectful nod. Young Master Potter Nightshade. We've been expecting you. The use of his hyphenated name sent new whispers rippling through the bank. Harry caught Lysander's slight smirk as nearby wizards exchanged confused glances. Ragnarok will see you immediately, the goblin continued, leading them toward a private office rather than the cart tracks that led to the vaults. Inside, an elderly goblin with a particularly vicious scar across his face rose from behind an ornate desk. The paperwork is prepared as requested, he said without preamble. Though I must inform you that Headmaster Dumbledore has made repeated inquiries about the Potter accounts in recent days. As expected, Elisabetta replied. He has no legal standing to interfere. None whatsoever, Ragnarok agreed with a toothy grin. The blood adoption was filed and recognized by Gringotts 5 years ago. Our records have been updated to reflect young Mr. Potter Nightshade's status as heir to both the Potter and Nightshade vaults. Harry stepped forward, extending his hand as he'd been taught. Thank you for your assistance, Master Ragnarok. May your gold flow and your enemies bleed. The goblin's eyes widened fractionally at the traditional vampire goblin greeting. He clasped Harry's forearm in the warrior's grip. And may your vaults overflow and your blades never dull, young heir. Their business concluded swiftly. Harry received a special Gringotts pouch linked directly to his trust vault, documentation of his status as a Nightshade ward, and confirmation that the Potter family ring awaited him when he turned 13. As they exited the bank, the crowd in Diagon Alley had swelled noticeably. Word traveled fast in the wizarding world. Ollivanders first, Elisa Beta decided, eyeing the growing number of onlookers. You'll need a minister-registered wand alongside your Nightshade wand. The ancient wandmaker's shop was exactly as described in the histories Harry had studied, narrow, dusty, and humming with latent magic. The moment they entered, Harry sensed Ollivander's presence before the old man emerged from the shadows. I wondered when I'd be seeing you, Mr. Potter, Ollivander said softly, his pale eyes fixed on Harry's face before sliding to his companions. And in such unusual company. Elisa Beta inclined her head slightly. Master Ollivander. Your reputation crosses many boundaries. Something passed between them, recognition, perhaps respect, though tinged with wariness on Ollivander's part. Lady Nightshade, he acknowledged. It has been, how long? 2 centuries since a member of your clan entered my shop. 176 years, she corrected smoothly. My nephew Calidus required a wand for diplomatic purposes. Ollivander's gaze returned to Harry. Curious. Very curious. He stepped closer, examining Harry with unnerving intensity. You already carry magic, Mr. Potter. Old magic. But Hogwarts requires a ministry-traceable wand, and so here you are. Harry met the wandmaker's gaze steadily. Yes, sir. Though I would prefer if you addressed me as Potter Nightshade. A thin smile crossed Ollivander's face. Names have power, young man. You carry 2 with significant weight. He began pulling boxes from shelves seemingly at random. Your mother's wand was 10¼ inches, willow, excellent for charm work. Your father's was mahogany, 11 inches, pliable and powerful, perfect for transfiguration. The wand-maker handed Harry a wand. Try this. Beechwood and dragon heartstring, 9 inches. Harry took it, immediately sensing the wand's resistance. Before he could even flick it, Ollivander snatched it back. No, no, that won't do. Perhaps this, maple and phoenix feather. A dozen wands later, Ollivander became increasingly excited rather than frustrated. Tricky customer. Excellent, excellent. I wonder. He disappeared into the back of the shop, returning with a dusty box. Holly and phoenix feather, 11 inches. An unusual combination. The moment Harry's fingers closed around this wand, he felt a surge of warmth, different from his Nightshade wand but undeniably powerful. Golden sparks shot from the tip, dancing around the shop. Curious, Ollivander whispered. Most curious indeed. What's curious? Harry asked, though his enhanced senses had detected the wandmaker's elevated heartbeat, the subtle change in his scent indicating unease. I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter Nightshade. The phoenix whose tail feather resides in your wand gave another feather, just one other. It is curious that you should be destined for this wand when its brother gave you that scar. The shop fell silent. Harry felt Elisa Beta and Lysander tense beside him. Voldemort's wand, Harry said calmly, ignoring Ollivander's flinch at the name. Yes. 13½ inches, you. The wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Potter Nightshade. I think we can expect great things from you, after all, he who must not be named did great things. Terrible, Yes, but great. Harry paid 7 galleons for his wand, tucking it into his sleeve opposite the hidden holster that contained his nightshade wand. As they left the shop, he caught Elisabetta's thoughtful expression. "You anticipated this," he said quietly. She nodded. "The connection was suspected. It confirms certain theories about your scar and its origins." Their shopping continued methodically: books, potion supplies, a top-quality trunk with multiple compartments and security features. At Madame Malkin's, Harry encountered his first wizarding peer, a blond boy with a pointy face and entitled demeanor. "Hogwarts too?" The boy drawled as Harry stood being fitted. "Yes," Harry replied simply, assessing the boy with a quick glance. Pure blood, wealthy, arrogant posture, likely a scion of one of the traditionalist families. "My father's next door buying books and mother's up the street looking at wands," the boy continued. "Then I'm going to drag them off to look at racing brooms. I don't see why first years can't have their own. I think I'll bully father into getting me one and I'll smuggle it in somehow." Harry raised an eyebrow, unimpressed by the casual mention of bullying one's own parent. The boy didn't notice his reaction, continuing his monologue. "Know what house you'll be in yet?" "I'll be in Slytherin, all our family have been. Imagine being in Hufflepuff. I think I'd leave, wouldn't you?" "I find blind house loyalty rather limiting," Harry replied coolly. "Each has its merits." The boy looked taken aback, finally paying proper attention to Harry. His eyes widened as they fell on the faded lightning scar. "You're Harry Potter," he exclaimed. "Harry Potter Nightshade," Harry corrected automatically. Confusion crossed the boy's face. "Nightshade? I don't recognize that family name." His eyes narrowed suspiciously. "They're not Muggles, are they?" Harry laughed, the sound causing the boy to flinch slightly. "No. Definitely not Muggles." Before the conversation could continue, Madame Malkin announced Harry's fitting was complete. Elisabetta and Lysander waited near the entrance, both watching the blond boy with predatory amusement. "That's your family?" the boy asked, a strange mix of wariness and curiosity in his voice. "Yes," Harry said simply. "Good luck with your broom smuggling." Outside, Lysander snorted. Draco Malfoy. Lucius's son. Just as insufferable as his father. "A useful first contact nonetheless," Elisabetta observed. "The Malfoys represent much of what you'll encounter at Hogwarts: old prejudices, wealth used as a weapon, and the shadow of Voldemort's influence." Their final stop was Elop's Owl Emporium, where a beautiful snowy owl immediately caught Harry's attention. The moment he approached her cage, she fixed him with an intelligent amber stare and gave a soft hoot. "She's perfect," Harry decided. The owl seemed to agree, stepping regally onto his arm when the cage was opened. When they left the shop, Harry turned to Elisabetta. "I'm naming her Hedwig," he announced. "After that vampire historian you made me study last year." Elisabetta's lips curved in a rare public smile. A fitting tribute. Hedwig of Vienna was formidable in her pursuit of knowledge. Their shopping complete, they retreated to the Leaky Cauldron for a private lunch in an upstairs room. As expected, whispers of Harry Potter's return had spread like wildfire. Tom the barkeeper nearly dropped his tray when he recognized Harry, and other patrons openly stared and pointed. "Your reintroduction to Wizarding Society appears successful," Elisabetta observed as they ate. "By nightfall, everyone will know that Harry Potter has returned, and that he bears the Nightshade name. Dumbledore will come calling soon," Lysander predicted. "The old wizard won't be able to resist investigating your new, family circumstances." Harry nodded, absently feeding Hedwig bits of his rare steak. "Let him come. We've been preparing for this meeting for years." He didn't have to wait long. The very next day, as Harry practiced dueling forms with Lysander in the Sanctuary's training chamber, a clan member arrived to announce a visitor. "Albus Dumbledore requests an audience with Lady Nightshade and young Master Potter Nightshade," the vampire messenger reported. "He awaits at the outer threshold." Elisa Beta, who had been observing the training session, nodded. We anticipated this. Harry, change into your formal robes. Lysander, alert the council. We will receive him in the upper chamber. 20 minutes later, Harry sat beside Elisa Beta in a rarely used reception room near the sanctuary's entrance. Unlike the deeper chambers that displayed vampire heritage proudly, this room was designed to put wizard visitors at ease, though its elegant furnishings and subtle magical artifacts still conveyed power and ancient lineage. Dumbledore entered with a swirl of midnight blue robes spangled with silver stars. His long white beard and half-moon spectacles matched the descriptions Harry had studied, but nothing had prepared him for the sheer magical presence of the old wizard, a thrumming power that filled the room like static electricity. Lady Nightshade, Dumbledore greeted with a slight bow. Thank you for agreeing to see me on such short notice. Headmaster Dumbledore, Elisa Beta replied coolly. Your request was expected. Dumbledore's twinkling blue eyes shifted to Harry, and the boy felt a subtle probe against his mental shields, a test, perhaps, or simple habit from the old wizard. Either way, the probe encountered Harry's occlumency barriers and slid away without penetrating. Surprise flickered briefly across Dumbledore's face. Harry, he said warmly. I cannot express my relief at finding you safe and well. We have been searching for you for a very long time. Harry maintained a neutral expression. 5 years, to be exact, Headmaster. Since the night I was forced to flee my relatives' abuse through accidental magic. The direct reference to the Dursleys' mistreatment caused Dumbledore's smile to falter. I deeply regret any suffering you experienced, my boy. Had I known, you should have known, Elisa Beta interrupted sharply. The boy was left on a doorstep with people who despised magic, without monitoring or safeguards. When we found him, he was malnourished, covered in bruises, and dressed in rags. Dumbledore's expression grew grave. A terrible mistake for which I take full responsibility. My primary concern was your safety, Harry. The blood wards created by your mother's sacrifice offered protection against Voldemort's followers. While leaving him vulnerable to enemies within, Lysander commented from his position by the door. May I ask how Harry came to be in your care, Lady Nightshade? Dumbledore inquired, his tone carefully neutral though his eyes betrayed intense curiosity. Elisa Beta gestured to Harry, allowing him to answer. I accidentally brought to Knockturn Alley after a particularly bad incident with my uncle, Harry explained calmly. Lady Elisa Beta found me being accosted by a shop owner. She recognized me and offered sanctuary. And subsequently blood adopted you, it seems, Dumbledore observed, nodding toward the Potter Nightshade designation on Harry's formal robes. A most unusual step. One taken with Harry's full consent and in accordance with laws that predate your ministry, Elisa Beta stated. The Nightshade clan has been Harry's legal family for 5 years, Headmaster. This is not open to negotiation or challenge. Dumbledore steepled his fingers. I would not presume to challenge a legally binding blood adoption. I am merely surprised. The vampire clans rarely take interest in wizard children, much less adopt them into their bloodlines. Harry is special, Elisa Beta said simply. Surely you of all people understand that, Headmaster. A tense silence fell before Dumbledore spoke again. Indeed. Which brings us to the matter of Harry's education. His place at Hogwarts has been reserved since birth, but I imagine his magical training has already begun under your tutelage. Harry nodded. I've studied the standard curriculum through 3rd year, along with additional subjects specific to my heritage. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. Impressive. Perhaps we should discuss special accommodations for your unique situation at Hogwarts. That won't be necessary, Harry said firmly. I intend to attend as a regular first-year student, though there are certain requirements regarding my hybrid nature that must be respected. The negotiations continued for nearly 2 hours. Harry's dietary needs, rare meats, certain potions, private quarters for security reasons, and permission to return to the sanctuary during holidays were all agreed upon. Dumbledore, to his credit, raised no objections to these reasonable requests. "I look forward to welcoming you to Hogwarts, Harry," Dumbledore said as the meeting concluded. "Despite the unusual circumstances, I believe your time there will be both educational and rewarding." "One final matter, Headmaster," Elisabetta said as Dumbledore prepared to leave. "Harry's status as my adopted son remains unknown to most of the wizarding world. While we don't intend to hide it, we would prefer that detailed information about his vampire heritage be kept confidential for now." "Of course," Dumbledore agreed. "Though I should warn you that secrets rarely remain secret at Hogwarts for long." After he departed, Harry turned to Elisabetta. "He was testing me. Trying to read my mind, gauge my abilities. And assessing the influence we have over you," Lysander added. "The old wizard is concerned about having the boy who lived raised by creatures he considers dark. Yet he made no move to interfere," Elisabetta noted. "Interesting. Perhaps Albus Dumbledore feels sufficient guilt over his past failure to protect you that he dares not risk alienating you further. Or perhaps," Harry suggested, "he simply recognizes that I'm better prepared now than I would have been otherwise." The remainder of the summer passed in final preparations. Harry practiced controlling his enhanced senses in crowded environments, rehearsed how to present himself to his peers, and reviewed ministry-approved first-year spells that would seem appropriately challenging for a novice wizard. "Remember," Elisabetta cautioned the night before his departure, "reveal your abilities gradually. Being exceptional will already make you a target, being exceptionally non-human will make you doubly so." "I understand," Harry assured her. "I won't hide who I am, but I won't advertise it either." "Your nightshade wand remains your secret weapon," Lysander added. "Use your ministry wand for classes. The other is for emergencies only." September 1st arrived with misty rain shrouding London. Harry arrived at King's Cross Station accompanied by Elisabetta and Lysander, both attracting curious stares from Muggles due to their ethereal beauty and aristocratic bearing. "Platform 9 3/4 is through that barrier," Elisabetta indicated. "We will accompany you to the train." Harry nodded, pushing his trolley toward the seemingly solid wall. He passed through effortlessly, emerging onto a platform bustling with activity. A scarlet steam engine waited, belching clouds of white smoke, while families said goodbye amidst the chaos of trunks, owls, cats, and toads. The reaction to their arrival was immediate. Conversations faltered as heads turned. Harry caught the words, "Potter," and "Where's he been?" whispered repeatedly. More concerning were the reactions to Elisabetta and Lysander, adults pulling children closer, hands drifting toward wand pockets. "They recognize you as vampires," Harry murmured. "Some do," Elisabetta confirmed. "Those with enough magical sensitivity or education. Others merely sense we are different." They found an empty compartment near the end of the train. Lysander loaded Harry's trunk while Elisabetta drew him aside for final instructions. "Write weekly," she said. "Use your nightshade mirror for emergencies. Remember your training, especially around the full moon when your senses will be heightened." Harry nodded, then surprised her with a quick hug, a rare physical display of affection he seldom showed in public. "Thank you," he whispered. "For everything." Elisabetta's expression softened momentarily. She touched his cheek in a gesture that, for her, conveyed deep attachment. "Make us proud, my son." Lysander clasped Harry's arm in the warrior's grip. "Don't let wizard children make you soft," he said gruffly, though the slight quirk of his lips betrayed his attempt at humor. As the train whistle blew, Harry boarded and found his compartment. He watched through the window as the platform slid away, Elisabetta and Lysander remaining perfectly still amidst the moving crowd until they disappeared from view. Harry settled back in his seat, adjusting to the cacophony of sounds, scents, and magical signatures surrounding him. The compartment door slid open, revealing a lanky red-haired boy with freckles and a smudge on his nose. "Anyone sitting here?" he asked, pointing to the seat opposite Harry. "Everywhere else is full." "Help yourself," Harry replied, noting the boy's worn robes and second-hand trunk, likely a Weasley, based on the descriptions in the wizarding family histories he'd studied. "I'm Ron." "Ron Weasley," the boy confirmed Harry's suspicion as he sat down. "Harry Potter Nightshade," Harry introduced himself, observing Ron's reaction closely. The expected widening of eyes came first, followed by a glance at Harry's forehead. "Blimey," Ron breathed. "So it's true. You're really back. Everyone's talking about it. But... Nightshade? I thought I was adopted," Harry explained simply. "After I left my Muggle relatives." Ron seemed to struggle with this information. "Adopted by wizards?" Harry smiled slightly. "Not exactly." Before he could elaborate, the compartment door slid open again. A round-faced boy looked in tearfully. "Sorry, but have you seen a toad?" "I've lost him." "No," Ron answered, while Harry shook his head. "I'm sure he'll turn up," Harry added kindly, sensing the boy's genuine distress. "Yes, well, if you see him." The boy left, looking miserable. Ron turned back to Harry. "So where've you been all these years? Everyone thought you were hidden away somewhere secret, being trained by top Aurors or something." Harry chose his words carefully. "I was raised by my adoptive family away from the wizarding public. I received private education in magic and other subjects." "Wicked," Ron said. "Is that why you—" He gestured vaguely at Harry's appearance, which, while not overtly vampire-like, certainly carried subtle differences from normal wizarding children. "Why I what?" Harry prompted. Ron's ears reddened. "Sorry, just, you look different than I expected. More like, I dunno, someone older." Harry nodded, understanding. His vampire heritage had accelerated certain aspects of his physical development, giving him a presence and composure rare in 11-year-olds. "Side effect of my upbringing," he said simply. Their conversation continued, with Ron explaining about his large family and Harry carefully navigating questions about his own. The compartment door opened again, this time revealing a girl with bushy brown hair and rather large front teeth, already wearing her Hogwarts robes. "Has anyone seen a toad?" "Neville's lost one," she said in a bossy sort of voice. "We've already told him we haven't seen it," Ron replied, but the girl wasn't listening. She was looking at Harry with sudden interest. "You're Harry Potter, aren't you? I've read all about you. You're in modern magical history, the rise and fall of the dark arts, and great wizarding events of the 20th century. Those books contain significant inaccuracies," Harry replied calmly. "And it's Potter Nightshade now." The girl blinked. "Nightshade? That's not mentioned in any of the books." "The books were written before my adoption," Harry explained. "Most of what's written about me is speculation at best, fiction at worst." "Oh." The girl seemed momentarily taken aback by this direct contradiction of her book knowledge. She recovered quickly. "I'm Hermione Granger, by the way." "And you are?" she added, looking at Ron. "Ron Weasley," he muttered. "Pleasure," Hermione said briskly. "You should change into your robes, you know. I expect we'll be arriving soon." She turned back to Harry, curiosity evident in her expression. "Nightshade isn't a wizarding family name I've come across in my reading." "That's because we're not wizards," Harry said, deciding on directness. "My adoptive family is one of the ancient vampire clans." Ron made a choking sound. Hermione's eyes widened to an almost comical degree. "Vampires?" she repeated. "Real vampires? But, how?" "I mean, the Ministry classifications of vampires as dangerous magical beings would surely prevent. The Ministry's authority is more limited than your books suggest," Harry interrupted gently. "Particularly regarding blood adoption rituals that predate its formation." Hermione looked fascinated rather than frightened, a reaction that surprised and pleased Harry. "That's absolutely fascinating. Are you? I mean, did you become a full vampire?" "No. The ritual was modified due to my age. I'm what's known as a damper, half human, half vampire. Ron finally found his voice. Bloody hell, he whispered. Wait till my brothers hear this. Harry turned to him, suddenly concerned by the potential for rapid spreading of his status. I'd appreciate if you both kept this information relatively quiet for now. Not because I'm hiding it, but because I'd rather not have it be the only thing people know about me. Hermione nodded seriously. Of course. That makes perfect sense. She hesitated. Though I have about 1,000 questions, if you'd be willing to answer them sometime. Harry smiled, warming to her academic enthusiasm. Maybe a few at a time. After Hermione left to continue the Toad search, Ron stared at Harry with a mix of wariness and awe. Vampires, he repeated. My dad works at the Ministry. Says they're really secretive, powerful. Old magic. We are, Harry agreed, noting the collective "we" had slipped out naturally. But we're also just people, with families, traditions, and lives of our own. Do you know? Ron made a fond gesture with his fingers. Harry laughed. Not until I'm older, and even then, not the way you're thinking. My clan hasn't fed on unwilling humans for centuries. This seemed to relax Ron slightly. The conversation gradually shifted to more conventional topics: Hogwarts houses. Ron expected Gryffindor, Harry was undecided; Quidditch, Ron supported the Chudley Cannons despite their perpetual losing streak; and Wizarding sweets, Harry bought a sampling from the trolley lady, having developed a sweet tooth despite his vampire heritage. As evening fell and the train neared Hogsmeade, the compartment door slid open once more. 3 boys entered, the blonde from Madame Malkin's flanked by 2 larger boys with dull, mean faces. So it's true, the blonde said. Harry Potter has come to Hogwarts. Though I hear you're calling yourself something else now. His gaze flicked critically over Ron. Red hair, freckles, and hand-me-down robes. You must be a Weasley. Ron flushed angrily, but Harry spoke before he could respond. And you're Draco Malfoy. Your reputation precedes you. Malfoy's eyes narrowed slightly at Harry's calm assessment. You'll soon find that some wizarding families are better than others, Potter. You don't want to go making friends with the wrong sort. I can help you there. He extended his hand, but Harry didn't take it. I think I can determine the right sort for myself, thank you, he said coolly. And it's Potter Nightshade. Malfoy's pale face flushed pink. I'd be careful if I were you. Unless you're a bit politer, you'll go the same way as your parents. They didn't know what was good for them either. He smirked. Hanging around with riffraff like the Weasleys will rub off on you. Both Harry and Ron stood, though Harry moved with inhuman speed that made the others blink in surprise. I suggest you leave, Harry said quietly, his voice carrying a subtle edge that made Malfoy take an involuntary step back. Now. Something in Harry's expression, perhaps a momentary flash of crimson in his normally green eyes, or the way he suddenly seemed to fill the small compartment with his presence, convinced Malfoy retreat was the wisest course. We'll go, he said, trying to maintain his dignity. But remember what I said, Potter. Your new, family name, won't protect you from making enemies. After they left, Ron whistled low. That was brilliant. Did you see their faces? But what did you do? You moved so fast, and for a second you looked. He trailed off, uncertain. Vampire traits, Harry explained with a shrug. Enhanced speed, presence. Nothing special. Nothing special, Ron repeated incredulously. Mate, you just scared off Malfoy and his goons without even drawing your wand. That's bloody amazing. Harry smiled, appreciating Ron's straightforward acceptance. Perhaps making friends wouldn't be as complicated as he'd feared. When they reached Hogsmeade Station, first years were directed to boats that would carry them across the lake to Hogwarts. Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville Longbottom, the Toad owner, now reunited with his pet, shared a boat, gliding silently across the black water toward the towering castle. Harry's enhanced vision pierced the darkness, revealing details of the castle that his companions couldn't see, ancient wards shimmering like gossamer, magical creatures moving in the depths of the lake below, and the varied magical signatures of the castle itself, pulsing with centuries of accumulated power. "It's beautiful," he whispered, truly awed despite years of preparation for this moment. Hagrid, the enormous groundskeeper, led them to the castle entrance where Professor McGonagall awaited. Her sharp eyes lingered on Harry for an extra moment, a flicker of recognition and something like concern crossing her features before she composed herself and explained the sorting ceremony. As they entered the great hall, Harry felt hundreds of eyes turned toward him. Whispers followed in his wake. The enchanted ceiling, showing a clear night sky scattered with stars, provided a momentary distraction as he admired the complex spell work involved in its creation. The sorting hat sang its song, explaining the 4 houses and their qualities. Harry listened with interest, knowing that his placement would significantly impact his Hogwarts experience. When McGonagall began calling names, he paid close attention to where his new acquaintances were sorted. Hermione went to Gryffindor after nearly a minute with the hat on her head. Neville, too, joined Gryffindor, looking relieved. Malfoy was sorted into Slytherin the instant the hat touched his head. "Potter Nightshade, Harry," McGonagall called, her voice perfectly controlled despite the way the entire hall fell silent at the name. Harry stepped forward, ignoring the renewed outbreak of whispers. He sat on the stool, and the hat dropped over his eyes. "Interesting," said a small voice in his ear. "Very interesting indeed. I've never sorted one like you before, wizard and vampire both. And such a mind. A clemency shields at your age. Impressive." "Thank you," Harry thought back. "Let me see beyond these shields, young Potter Nightshade. I must know you to sort you properly." Harry hesitated, then carefully lowered his outer mental barriers while maintaining protection around certain sensitive memories. "Ah, much better," the hat said. "Now, where to put you? You've courage aplenty, that's clear. A sharp mind too, and such knowledge already. Loyalty to those who've earned it, and ambition, oh yes, to prove yourself worthy of both your legacies. Difficult, very difficult. I'm open to your judgment," Harry thought. "Each house has merits. Wise beyond your years," the hat commented. "You would do well in Ravenclaw with that mind, or Slytherin with your cunning and determination. Gryffindor would nurture your bravery, while Hufflepuff would value your fierce loyalty." The hat fell silent for a moment, considering. "I see your path more clearly now, a bridge between worlds, between light and dark, human and other. For that role, you'll need courage above all. Better be Gryffindor." The last word was shouted to the hall. Harry removed the hat and walked toward the Gryffindor table, which had erupted in wild cheers. He caught a glimpse of Dumbledore watching him with intense interest. Ron joined him in Gryffindor shortly after, grinning with relief as he sat beside Harry. The Weasley twins, Fred and George, Ron's older brothers, celebrated by chanting, "We got Potter. We got Potter," until Percy, the eldest Weasley present, told them to settle down. The feast that followed was Harry's first major test in controlling his enhanced senses in such a stimulating environment. The noise of hundreds of conversations, the mingled sense of food and people, the dazzling array of magical signatures, all threatened to overwhelm him. He employed the focusing techniques Lysander had taught him, directing his attention selectively while maintaining awareness of his surroundings. He ate sparingly, selecting the rarest cuts of meat available and supplementing with the nutrient-rich foods his hybrid physiology preferred. Several of his new housemates noticed his unusual diet but were too polite, or too intimidated by his fame, to comment directly. After dessert, Dumbledore rose to give start-of-term notices, including a warning about the forbidden third-floor corridor on the right-hand side. Harry's enhanced senses detected the headmaster's carefully modulated heartbeat, a sign the old wizard wasn't being entirely forthright about the danger. Later, as they followed Percy up to Gryffindor Tower, Harry fell in step beside Hermione. The third-floor corridor, he said quietly. Did you notice Dumbledore's pulse change when he mentioned it? Hermione gave him a startled look. You can hear heartbeats. Harry nodded. Among other things. Enhanced senses, vampire trait. Fascinating, she breathed. But no, I didn't notice anything about his pulse. Do you think he was lying? Not lying exactly, Harry clarified. More like omitting significant details. You think there's something important hidden there, Hermione deduced quickly. Perhaps. Something that requires protection beyond standard Hogwarts security measures. Ron joined them, catching the tail end of their conversation. You're not thinking of investigating, are you? Because that sounds mental. Dumbledore said anyone who goes there might die. I'm not planning an expedition, Harry assured him. Just making observations. When they reached the portrait of the fat lady, Percy gave the password, Caput Draconis, and they entered the Gryffindor common room, a cozy, circular space filled with squashy armchairs and decorated in red and gold. Boys' dormitories are upstairs to the right, Percy directed, girls to the left. Harry paused. Professor McGonagall mentioned I have separate accommodations for security reasons. Percy nodded, looking important. Yes, the headmaster informed me. Follow me, Potter Nightshade. He led Harry to what appeared to be a solid wall behind a tapestry depicting Godric Gryffindor slaying a dragon. Your quarters are here. The password is Sanctuary for now, you can change it later if you wish. When Percy spoke the password, a door materialized in the wall. Harry thanked the prefect and entered his private room, finding a space that, while not as grand as his chambers in the Nightshade Sanctuary, was considerably more luxurious than the standard dormitories. A four-poster bed with crimson hangings dominated one wall. A small sitting area with a desk, bookshelf, and comfortable chair occupied another. A private bathroom connected through a side door. Most importantly, the windows were equipped with special shutters designed to block direct sunlight if needed, a thoughtful accommodation for his vampire sensitivity, though Harry's hybrid nature made this less necessary than for full vampires. Hedwig's cage stood empty on a perch near the window, she had already been sent to the Ollery. His trunk sat at the foot of the bed, unpacked and ready. Harry took a moment to activate the privacy wards built into the room, then removed his Nightshade communication mirror from a hidden compartment in his trunk. Elisabetta Nightshade, he spoke clearly to the mirror's surface. Within seconds, his adoptive mother's face appeared. Harry. You've arrived safely, then. Yes. The journey was uneventful. I've been sorted into Gryffindor. Elisabetta nodded. Not unexpected, given your natural tendencies. How have your peers reacted to you? Mixed, Harry admitted. I've already made some potential allies. Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger seem accepting of my heritage. Draco Malfoy less so, though he doesn't know the full story yet. Weasley, Elisabetta mused. Arthur's son. The family has no love for dark creatures, but they're generally fair-minded. The Granger girl, Muggleborn. Yes. Extremely intelligent, curious about vampire culture without prejudice. Interesting. And your accommodations? Harry gave her a quick tour of his room via the mirror. Dumbledore has been surprisingly accommodating. Private quarters with appropriate modifications. Guilt is a powerful motivator, Elisabetta observed. The old wizard feels responsible for your suffering with the Dursleys. He will attempt to regain your trust and, by extension, your loyalty. I'll remain vigilant, Harry promised. There's something else, a forbidden corridor Dumbledore specifically warned might cause death to anyone who enters. His heartbeat changed when he mentioned it. Elisabetta's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Curious. Hogwarts has many dangerous areas, but rarely does the headmaster make such explicit warnings. Monitor the situation, but do not investigate directly unless absolutely necessary. They discussed a few more details before ending the communication. Harry prepared for bed, reflecting on his eventful first day in the wizarding world. Challenges lay ahead, balancing his dual nature, navigating social dynamics, maintaining his training while appearing to be in normal first year. But he felt prepared, thanks to 5 years of rigorous nightshade education. As he drifted to sleep, Harry realized with satisfaction that for the first time, he truly belonged in both worlds, wizard and vampire, Hogwarts and Nightshade, Potter and Nightshade. Bridge between worlds, the Sorting Hat had called him. It was a role he intended to embrace fully. The following weeks established Harry's routine at Hogwarts. Classes were simultaneously fascinating and frustratingly basic compared to his previous education. In Transfiguration, Professor McGonagall kept a sharp eye on him, clearly having been briefed about his unique status. When students struggled to turn matches into needles, Harry deliberately succeeded on his third attempt rather than his first, earning 5 points for Gryffindor and a calculating look from McGonagall. Charms with tiny Professor Flitwick proved similarly straightforward, though Harry genuinely enjoyed the diminutive professor's enthusiasm. Herbology presented new challenges. Certain magical plants reacted strongly to his vampire presence, either shrinking away or becoming unusually vigorous. Most curious, Professor Sprout commented when a singing sunflower actually changed its tune from a happy melody to a minor key when Harry approached. Plants can sense magical natures. I'd be interested to study this phenomenon further, Mr. Potter Nightshade, if you're willing. History of Magic, taught by the ghost Professor Binns, tested Harry's patience rather than his abilities. Despite Elisabetta's extensive historical education, Binns managed to make goblin rebellions and giant wars sound like the most tedious events in magical history. Defense against the dark arts proved immediately suspicious. Professor Quirrell, with his stuttering manner and turban that reeked of garlic, set off Harry's enhanced senses from their first meeting. More concerning was the sharp pain that shot through Harry's scar whenever Quirrell turned his back, a reaction Harry carefully concealed while making mental note to report to Elisabetta. Potions presented the greatest challenge socially rather than academically. Professor Snape, the sallow-faced potions master, clearly harbored deep-seated feelings about Harry, though whether it was his Potter heritage or Nightshade adoption that triggered the man's antipathy remained unclear. "Ah, yes," Snape said softly during their first class, "Harry Potter. Our new celebrity." His eyes lingered on Harry's faded scar before narrowing slightly. "Or should I say Potter Nightshade now? How interesting that you found yourself adopted by creatures most consider dark." The Slytherin sniggered. Harry met Snape's gaze steadily, keeping his expression neutral despite the professor's attempt to provoke him. "Potter Nightshade." Snape suddenly barked. "What would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood?" "The draught of living death, sir," Harry answered promptly. "A powerful sleeping potion." Snape's lip curled. "Where would you look if I told you to find me a bezoar?" "The stomach of a goat, sir. It will protect against most poisons." "What is the difference between monkshood and wolfsbane?" "They're the same plant, sir, also called aconite. Particularly toxic to werewolves, hence the name." Snape's eyes glittered dangerously. Well. Fame clearly isn't everything, but perhaps your unusual upbringing has provided some education after all. Let us see if you can brew as well as you memorize textbooks." Despite Snape's continued attempts to find fault with his work, Harry produced a perfect boil-curing potion by the end of class. His vampire-enhanced senses helped him detect the precise moment ingredients needed to be added or removed from heat, an advantage he carefully downplayed by pretending to check the textbook frequently. As September progressed, Harry developed routines that helped him maintain his more advanced abilities while appearing to be a normal first year. He rose before dawn for private training in his room, physical exercises Lysander had taught him, a clemency practice, and wandless magic drills. During free periods, he often slipped away to unused classrooms to practice more advanced spells with his Nightshade wand, carefully warding the doors against interruption. His friendship with Ron and Hermione solidified, though not without complications. Ron, while accepting of Harry's hybrid nature, occasionally showed unease when Harry's vampire traits became more noticeable, such as when his eyes flashed crimson during moments of strong emotion. Hermione's boundless curiosity sometimes led to questions that pushed the boundaries of privacy, though she always apologized when Harry indicated a topic was sensitive. "I've been reading everything I can find about vampires," she admitted one evening in the library. "But most wizarding books are terribly prejudiced. They make vampires sound like mindless predators." "Wizard-authored texts rarely capture the reality," Harry agreed. "Vampire culture is ancient, sophisticated, and far more diverse than wizards acknowledge. We've had our dark periods and individuals, certainly, but no more than wizard society has produced dark lords and corrupt officials." Hermione nodded thoughtfully. "It's like wizard attitudes toward house elves or goblins, based on fear and misunderstanding rather than genuine knowledge." "Exactly. Fear of the other is a universal failing." Their conversation was interrupted by Ron arriving with news about flying lessons scheduled for Thursday, Gryffindors and Slytherins together. "Just what I always wanted," Harry said dryly. "To make a fool of myself on a broomstick in front of Malfoy." "You'll be brilliant," Ron assured him. "Don't vampires have, special flying abilities or something?" Harry laughed. "Common misconception. We don't transform into bats or float through the air. Some ancient vampires can levitate, but that's advanced magic, not an inherent ability." "Have you ever flown a broom before?" Hermione asked anxiously. "I've been trying to find good books on flying techniques, but there's nothing in the library." "Flying isn't something you can learn from a book," Ron said incredulously. Before they could argue, Harry intervened. "I've had some basic flight training, but not extensively. My family considered other skills more important." The flying lesson arrived with perfect weather conditions, clear skies and a gentle breeze. Harry approached the school brooms with caution, his enhanced senses detecting the erratic magic in the aged, poorly maintained equipment. "Stand by your broomstick," Madame Hooch instructed. "Hold your right hand over the broom and say, 'Up.'" "Up," everyone shouted. Harry's broom jumped into his hand immediately, as did Malfoy's. Most others struggled, with Hermione's merely rolling over and Neville's not moving at all. When instructed to mount their brooms, Harry did so with the precise form Lysander had drilled into him during their few flying sessions. Madame Hooch corrected Malfoy's grip, much to Ron's delight and the Slytherin's embarrassment. Before they could actually fly, Neville's nervousness caused him to push off too early. His broom rose rapidly, then plummeted, resulting in a broken wrist. As Madame Hooch escorted him to the hospital wing with strict instructions that no one was to fly, Malfoy spotted something glinting in the grass, Neville's remembrall. "Look what the fat lump dropped," Malfoy said, snatching it up. Maybe if he'd given this a squeeze, he'd have remembered to fall on his fat backside. "Give it here, Malfoy," Harry said quietly, stepping forward. Malfoy's smirk widened. "I think I'll leave it somewhere for Longbottom to find. How about up a tree?" He mounted his broom and took off. Harry sighed, realizing a confrontation was unavoidable if he wanted to retrieve Neville's property. "Harry, don't," Hermione warned. "You'll get expelled." Harry mounted his broom. "Sometimes rules must be balanced against justice," he said, then kicked off from the ground. The sensation was exhilarating. Air rushed past him as he soared upward with perfect control, his vampire-enhanced reflexes making the broom respond to his slightest touch. He turned sharply to face Malfoy, who looked stunned at Harry's unexpected skill. "Give it here," Harry called, "or I'll knock you off that broom." "Oh yeah?" Malfoy tried to sneer, but looked worried. Harry leaned forward and shot toward Malfoy like an arrow. The Slytherin barely dodged in time, clearly unprepared for Harry's speed and precision. "No Crabbe and Goyle up here to save you," Harry observed calmly, hovering in place. "Last chance. Return the remembrall or face consequences." Something in Harry's tone, perhaps the subtle vampire influence that could make his voice uncommonly persuasive, seemed to unnerve Malfoy further. Catch it if you can, then, he shouted, throwing the glass ball high into the air before streaking back toward the ground. Harry tracked the Remembral's trajectory with his enhanced vision, noting its speed, spin, and the wind factors affecting its path. He accelerated, pressing his body flat against the broomstick, diving nearly vertically after the falling sphere. The ground rushed up to meet him, but he calculated his interception perfectly, catching the Remembral one-handed just 3 feet above the grass before pulling out of the dive with a gentle curve that bled off momentum safely. He touched down lightly, holding the Remembral triumphantly, only to hear Professor McGonagall's voice ring out across the lawn. "Harry Potter Nightshade." McGonagall's face was a mask of shock as she hurried toward him. "Never, in all my time at Hogwarts," she sputtered, almost speechless with apparent anger. "How dare you, might have broken your neck, follow me, now." Harry followed her back to the castle, mentally preparing explanations. To his surprise, she led him not to her office but to a classroom where she asked Professor Flitwick if she could borrow Wood for a moment. Wood turned out to be Oliver Wood, a burly fifth-year boy who was captain of the Gryffindor Quidditch team. McGonagall's anger transformed into excitement as she explained what she had witnessed. Potter Nightshade performed a 60-foot dive to catch this, she told Wood, holding up the Remembral. "Didn't even scratch himself. Charlie Weasley couldn't have done it." Wood looked as though all his dreams had come true at once. "Ever flown on a broomstick before, Potter Nightshade?" he asked eagerly. "Some basic training," Harry admitted. "But not extensively." "He's a natural," McGonagall declared. "Was that your first time on a school broom?" Harry nodded. "I shall speak to Professor Dumbledore about bending the first-year rule. Heaven knows we need a better team than last year. Flattened in that match against Slytherin, I couldn't look Severus Snape in the face for weeks." She peered sternly over her glasses at Harry. "I want to hear you're training hard, Potter Nightshade, or I may change my mind about punishing you." Then, surprisingly, she smiled. "Your father would have been proud. He was an excellent Quidditch player himself." The news that Harry had been made seeker on the Gryffindor team spread quickly, despite Wood's attempts to keep it secret. That evening at dinner, Ron was ecstatic while Hermione remained concerned about the rule-breaking that had led to the appointment. "First years never make the house teams," Ron explained to Harry between mouthfuls of shepherd's pie. "You must be the youngest house player in a century," Harry finished. "Wood told me. But what about your, you know?" Ron lowered his voice. "Vampire stuff? Is it even fair? I mean, you've got all those extra abilities." "Actually, I've been thinking about that," Harry admitted. "I'll speak with McGonagall about reasonable limitations to ensure fair play." Hermione looked impressed. "That's very ethical of you, Harry." "Ethics matter," Harry said simply. "My mother, Elisa Beta, has always emphasized that power without restraint leads to corruption." Their conversation was interrupted by Malfoy and his cronies approaching the Gryffindor table. "Enjoying your last meal, Potter Nightshade? When are you getting the train back to your vampire nest?" Malfoy sneered, though Harry detected nervous tension beneath the bravado. "You seem braver now you're back on the ground with your bodyguards," Harry observed mildly. "I'd take you on any time," Malfoy shot back. "Tonight, if you want." "Wizard's duel. Wands only, no contact." "What's the matter? Never heard of a wizard's duel before, I suppose?" "Of course he has," Ron jumped in. "I'm his second." "Who's yours?" Malfoy sized up Crabbe and Goyle. "Crabbe. Midnight in the trophy room, it's always unlocked." After Malfoy left, Hermione immediately protested. "You mustn't go wandering around the school at night. Think of the points you'll lose for Gryffindor if you're caught." "And it's probably a trap," Harry added calmly. "Malfoy has no intention of dueling me. He'll likely tip off Filch and hope to get us in trouble." Ron looked disappointed. "So you're not going?" "I didn't say that," Harry replied with a slight smile. "I said it's a trap." Knowing it's a trap changes the game entirely. That night, Harry left his private quarters shortly before midnight. His vampire-enhanced night vision eliminated the need for a light as he moved silently through the darkened corridors. He encountered Ron, Hermione, and surprisingly, Neville, locked out of the common room after forgetting the password, waiting near the trophy room entrance. "I tried to stop them," Hermione whispered frantically when she saw Harry. Ron wouldn't listen. "And I couldn't remember the password," Neville added miserably. Harry nodded. "As expected, Malfoy isn't here and won't be coming. However, I detected Filch's scent near the east corridor. He's patrolling this area specifically, which confirms my trap theory." "So what do we do?" Ron asked, looking both disappointed and relieved. "Follow me," Harry instructed. "Stay close and move quietly." He led them through a series of lesser-known passages, his senses alert for any signs of Filch or Mrs. Norris. They nearly encountered Peeves at one junction, but Harry's hearing detected the poltergeist's approach in time to divert their route. As they passed the forbidden third-floor corridor, Harry paused. His senses detected something unusual, a massive creature breathing behind the locked door, its scent distinctly canine but multiplied somehow. "Do you smell that?" he asked the others. They shook their heads, unable to detect what his enhanced senses revealed. "There's something big behind that door," Harry explained quietly. "Something that shouldn't be in a school full of children." "The forbidden corridor," Hermione breathed. "The one Dumbledore warned about at the feast." Before they could investigate further, Harry detected Filch's approaching footsteps. "Time to go," he whispered, leading them swiftly back toward Gryffindor Tower through a different route. Once safely back at the fat lady's portrait, Hermione gave the password, "Pig Snout," and they all tumbled inside except Harry, who bid them good night before returning to his private quarters. The next morning, Harry contacted Elisabetta via the communication mirror to report recent developments, including the Quidditch appointment and the creature guarding the third-floor corridor. "A three-headed dog, based on the breathing pattern and scent variation," Harry explained. "Likely a Cerberus." Elisabetta's expression grew concerned. "A Cerberus at Hogwarts?" "Such creatures are used as guardians for powerful magical artifacts or gateways. Whatever Dumbledore is protecting must be of extraordinary value or danger." "I'll continue gathering information discreetly," Harry promised. "Do so, but exercise caution. Your primary focus should remain your education and integration." "Quidditch." She frowned slightly. "An unexpected development. While I appreciate McGonagall's recognition of your abilities, the exposure concerns me." "I've already spoken with her about implementing fair limitations," Harry assured her. "No using vampire speed or strength beyond normal human parameters. My reflexes and vision will help, but not unfairly." "Very well. Lysander will be pleased. He was quite the Quidditch enthusiast in his school days, though he'd never admit it now." The conversation shifted to Harry's academic progress and social integration before concluding. As Harry prepared for breakfast, he reflected on how quickly his life at Hogwarts was evolving. Between classes, Quidditch, new friendships, and the mystery of the Forbidden Corridor, he was being tested in ways even Nightshade training hadn't fully prepared him for. When Harry's Nimbus 2000 arrived at breakfast a week later, a gift from McGonagall for the Quidditch team, the excitement among Gryffindors was palpable. Malfoy's obvious jealousy only added to the satisfaction. Wood scheduled intensive training sessions 3 evenings a week, working the team hard in preparation for the upcoming match against Slytherin. Harry found that flying came naturally to him, his hybrid nature giving him advantages in speed perception and reaction time that compensated for his lack of experience. He worked closely with Wood to develop techniques that utilized his strengths while remaining within the ethical boundaries they'd established with McGonagall. October brought increasingly chilly weather and the approach of Halloween. In Charms class on October 31st, Professor Flitwick announced they were ready to start making objects fly, a spell Harry had mastered years ago but pretended to find challenging. The class was divided into pairs. Harry was partnered with Seamus Finnegan, while Ron was paired with Hermione. The tension between those two had been building for weeks, as Hermione's academic perfectionism grated on Ron's more relaxed approach to schoolwork. "Now, don't forget that nice wrist movement we've been practicing," Professor Flitwick reminded them. "Swish and flick, remember, swish and flick. And saying the magic words properly is very important, too." Harry deliberately performed the spell incorrectly twice before succeeding on his third attempt, sending his feather floating gently upward. Hermione succeeded shortly after, while Ron struggled increasingly with his pronunciation. "You're saying it wrong," Harry overheard Hermione tell Ron. "It's Wingardium Leviosa, make the gar nice and long." "You do it, then, if you're so clever," Ron snarled. Hermione rolled up her sleeves, flicked her wand, and said, "Wingardium Leviosa." Their feather rose off the desk and hovered about 4 feet above their heads. "Oh, well done," cried Professor Flitwick, clapping. "Everyone see here, Miss Granger's done it." Ron was in a very bad mood by the end of the class. "It's no wonder no one can stand her," he said to Harry as they pushed their way into the crowded corridor. "She's a nightmare, honestly." Someone knocked into Harry as they hurried past. It was Hermione, and Harry was startled to see tears in her eyes as she rushed away. "I think she heard you," Harry said quietly. "So?" Ron looked uncomfortable but defensive. "She must have noticed she's got no friends." "She has friends," Harry corrected him firmly. "I consider her a friend, and you should too." Ron's ears reddened. "Yeah, well, she's just so bossy all the time." "She's trying to help," Harry pointed out. "Perhaps not always tactfully, but her intentions are good. Remember when you learned about my vampire heritage? You were uncomfortable but gave me a chance. Hermione deserves the same consideration." Ron looked properly ashamed now. "I suppose you're right. I'll apologize when I see her next class." But Hermione didn't appear for their next class, or any classes that afternoon. As they headed down to the Great Hall for the Halloween feast, Harry overheard Parvati Patil telling her friend Lavender that Hermione was crying in the girls' bathroom and wanted to be left alone. "We should check on her," Harry said to Ron, who nodded guiltily. "After the feast," he suggested. "She might feel better after she's had some time alone." Harry reluctantly agreed, though his instincts warned him against leaving a friend vulnerable and isolated. Those instincts proved correct when Professor Quirrell burst into the Great Hall midway through the feast, his turban askew and terror on his face. "Troll, in the dungeons, thought you ought to know." He then sank to the floor in a dead faint. The hall erupted in panic until Dumbledore set off several purple firecrackers from his wand to restore silence. "Prefects, lead your houses back to the dormitories immediately." As Percy led the Gryffindors through the crowds, Harry grabbed Ron's arm. "Hermione, she doesn't know about the troll." Ron bit his lip, then nodded determinedly. "Let's go find her." They slipped away from the Gryffindor line, ducking down a deserted corridor toward the girls' bathroom. Harry's senses immediately detected something alarming, the foul stench of the troll, and it wasn't coming from the dungeons. "It's up here," he warned Ron. "Moving this way." They pressed themselves against the wall as the troll shuffled into view, 12 feet tall with granite-gray skin, a lumpy body, and a small bald head. The stench emanating from it made even Ron gag, while Harry's enhanced sense of smell forced him to breathe through his mouth. To their horror, the troll stopped next to a doorway and peered inside. It waggled its long ears, seeming to make up its tiny mind, then slouched slowly into the room. "The key's in the lock," Harry whispered. "We could lock it in." "Good idea," Ron agreed nervously. They edged toward the open door. Harry leapt forward, grabbed the key, slammed the door, and turned the lock. "Yes," they exclaimed together, rushing back down the passage before freezing at a high, petrified scream coming from behind the locked door. "Hermione," they gasped in unison. Harry unlocked the door and they burst inside. Hermione was shrinking against the wall opposite, looking as if she was about to faint. The troll was advancing on her, knocking sinks off the walls as it went. "Confuse it," Harry said to Ron, grabbing a tap and throwing it against the wall. The troll stopped a few feet from Hermione, turning its tiny eyes toward Harry. It hesitated, then made for him instead, lifting its club as it went. "Oi, pea-brain!" Ron yelled, throwing a metal pipe at it. The troll didn't even seem to notice the pipe hitting its shoulder, but it heard the yell and paused again, turning toward Ron instead. Harry used the distraction to move with vampire speed, appearing beside Hermione in an instant. "Come on, run," he urged her. But Hermione couldn't move, she was still flattened against the wall, her mouth open with terror. The shouting and echoes seemed to be driving the troll berserk. It roared and started toward Ron, who was nearest and had no way to escape. Harry made a split-second decision. Drawing his ministry wand, he cast a levitation charm, Wingardium Leviosa. Not on the troll but on its club. The massive wooden weapon floated suddenly out of the troll's grasp, rose high into the air, turned slowly over, and dropped with a sickening crack onto its owner's head. The troll swayed in place, stunned but not defeated. Before it could recover, Harry called upon his vampire strength, launching himself onto the troll's shoulders and driving his fist into the creature's temple with precisely calculated force, enough to render it unconscious without killing it. The troll tottered, then fell flat on its face with a thud that made the whole room tremble. Ron stood there with his wand still raised, staring at Harry in shock. "Bloody hell," he whispered. "That was necessary," Harry finished for him, dusting himself off as he jumped down from the fallen troll. "Are you all right, Hermione?" She nodded shakily. Yes. Thank you. Both of you." Her eyes were wide as she stared at Harry. "You moved so fast. And that punch." "Vampire strength," Harry explained simply. "Though I'd appreciate if you'd both keep the details between us." Before they could respond, the bathroom door slammed open as Professors McGonagall, Snape, and Quirrell arrived at a run. Quirrell took one look at the troll, let out a faint whimper, and sat quickly down on a toilet, clutching his heart. Snape bent over the troll, examining it with narrowed eyes. McGonagall was looking at Harry and Ron with fury in her expression. "What on earth were you thinking?" she demanded, cold anger in her voice. "You're lucky you weren't killed. Why aren't you in your dormitory?" To everyone's surprise, Hermione spoke up. "Please, Professor McGonagall, they were looking for me." "Miss Granger. I went looking for the troll because I thought I could deal with it on my own, you know, because I've read all about them." Ron dropped his wand in shock at this blatant lie from rule-following Hermione. Harry kept his expression carefully neutral. "If they hadn't found me, I'd be dead now," Hermione continued. "Harry levitated its club, and Ron distracted it while I got away. They didn't have time to come and fetch anyone. It was about to finish me off when they arrived." Harry noticed she carefully omitted his vampire-enhanced actions. "Well, in that case." Professor McGonagall stared at the three of them. "Miss Granger, you foolish girl, how could you think of tackling a mountain troll on your own?" Hermione hung her head. McGonagall deducted 5 points from Gryffindor for her actions but awarded 5 points each to Harry and Ron for sheer dumb luck. They were then dismissed back to Gryffindor Tower. As they walked away, Harry noticed Snape's calculating gaze following them, particularly him. More concerning was the brief flare of pain in his scar when Quirrell's eyes met his, accompanied by a strange, almost hungry expression that the professor quickly masked with his usual fearful demeanor. The three reached the portrait of the fat lady in silence. "Thanks for coming to find me," Hermione said in a small voice. "Friends look out for each other," Harry replied simply. Ron nodded awkwardly. "Yeah. And I'm sorry about what I said earlier." Hermione smiled tentatively. "It's okay. I know I can be a bit much sometimes." They entered the common room, which was packed and noisy with Gryffindors eating the food that had been sent up from the feast. Ron and Hermione collected plates while Harry excused himself to his private quarters, needing a moment to process what had happened. Once alone, he contacted Elisabetta via the mirror, reporting the troll incident and his concerns about Quirrell. The defense professor causes your scar to hurt. Elisabetta's expression grew grave. That suggests a connection to Voldemort. It's not consistent, Harry explained. Only when he looks directly at me, and only occasionally. Today was the strongest reaction yet. Monitor him closely, but do not confront him, Elisabetta instructed. If he is connected to Voldemort, he represents a danger beyond a simple teacher. Harry nodded, then hesitated before adding, I used vampire abilities in front of Ron and Hermione today. It was necessary to subdue the troll. Elisabetta considered this. Do you trust them to maintain discretion? Yes. They've proven loyal so far. Then perhaps it's for the best. True friends who accept all aspects of you will be valuable allies in the challenges ahead. She paused. The troll's presence is troubling. Such creatures are not native to Scotland and rarely wander into inhabited areas without compelling reason. A diversion, perhaps. Harry suggested. The third-floor corridor remains guarded by the Cerberus. A plausible theory. Someone may have released the troll to create an opportunity to access whatever is being protected. Elisabetta's eyes narrowed. Did you notice any professors missing during the initial alarm? Harry thought back. Quirrell obviously, he reported the troll. And Snape wasn't at the staff table when the announcement was made. Interesting. Continue your observations, but prioritize your safety. Neither Lysander nor I would forgive myself if harm came to you while investigating these mysteries. After ending the communication, Harry rejoined his friends in the common room. From that moment on, Hermione became an integral part of their group. There are some things you can't share without becoming friends, and knocking out a 12-foot mountain troll together is one of them. November brought bitter cold and the start of the Quidditch season. Harry's first match, Gryffindor vs. Slytherin, approached rapidly. Despite Wood's secrecy, word had spread that Harry was the new Gryffindor seeker, creating both excitement among his housemates and derision from Slytherins. You'll be brilliant, Ron assured him the day before the match. Fred and George say the Slytherin seeker, Terence Higgs, is good but has slow reactions compared to you. Hermione had been reviewing Quidditch Through the Ages with Harry, though he was already familiar with most of the information thanks to Lysander's surprisingly detailed knowledge of the sport. The morning of the match, Harry awoke early for his usual training routine, focusing on centering exercises that would help him maintain control of his vampire reflexes during the high-pressure game. At breakfast, he ate lightly despite his friend's attempts to pile food on his plate. You need your strength, Hermione insisted. My hybrid metabolism works differently, Harry reminded her quietly. Too much food before physical exertion actually slows me down. By 11 o'clock, the whole school seemed to be in the stands around the Quidditch pitch. Many students carried binoculars to see the action clearly. Ron and Hermione joined Neville, Seamus, and Dean in the top row, having created a banner proclaiming Potter Nightshade for President, with a lion underneath that Dean, who was good at drawing, had sketched. Hermione had performed a tricky little charm that made the paint flash different colors. In the locker room, Harry changed into his scarlet Quidditch robes, listening to Wood's pre-match pep talk with half an ear while focusing on controlling his breathing and heart rate, techniques Lysander had taught him for combat situations that translated well to competitive sports. Scared, Potter Nightshade? Fred Weasley asked, noticing Harry's intense concentration. Focused, Harry corrected with a small smile. There's a difference. As they walked onto the field to loud cheers, Harry spotted a banner fluttering above the crowd, Potter Nightshade for President. His enhanced vision caught another, smaller sign held by a group of Slytherins that read, Bloodsucker Go Home, the first public indication that rumors about his vampire connection had spread beyond his immediate circle. Madam Hooch asked Wood and Flint, the Slytherin captain, to shake hands, which they did while giving each other threatening stares. At her whistle, 15 brooms rose high into the air, and the match began. And the quaffle is taken immediately by Angelina Johnson of Gryffindor. What an excellent chaser that girl is, and rather attractive, too, Jordan. Sorry, Professor. Lee Jordan, the Weasley twins' friend, was doing the commentary for the match, closely watched by Professor McGonagall. Harry positioned himself high above the game, scanning for the snitch while keeping an eye on Terence Higgs, the Slytherin seeker. His enhanced vision gave him a distinct advantage in spotting the tiny golden ball, though he was careful not to make his superior eyesight too obvious. Slytherin in possession, Lee Jordan was saying. Chaser Pusey ducks 2 bludgers, 2 Weasleys, and Chaser Bell, and speeds toward the, wait a moment, was that the snitch? A murmur ran through the crowd as Adrian Pusey dropped the quaffle, distracted by the golden streak that had passed his left ear. Harry saw it immediately and dived, Higgs following close behind. Neck and neck they hurtled toward the snitch, all the chasers seemingly forgetting their roles as they hung in midair to watch. Harry was faster, his reflexes allowing him to adjust his trajectory with microscopic precision as the snitch changed direction. He was inches from it when his broom gave a sudden, violent lurch. For a split second, he thought he would fall, but he gripped the handle tightly with both hands and knees. The broom lurched again, as though trying to buck him off. His vampire instincts flared in warning, this was no mechanical malfunction but magical interference. As the broom zigzagged through the air, taking him higher away from the game, Harry extended his senses, searching for the source of the magic affecting his broom. He detected 2 distinct magical signatures focusing on him from the stands, one from the teacher's section, another from nearby. Unable to look directly without losing his precarious grip, Harry focused on maintaining control while the broom continued its erratic movements. Below, the crowd had noticed his predicament. People were pointing up at him as the broom rolled over and over, jerking and twitching. Suddenly, it gave a wild jerk, and Harry swung off it, now dangling from it with only one hand. Did something happen to it when Flint blocked him? Seamus whispered in the stands. Can't have, Hagrid said, his voice worried. Can't nothing interfere with a broomstick except powerful dark magic, no kid could do that to a Nimbus 2000. Hermione seized Hagrid's binoculars and started scanning the crowd frantically. What are you doing? Moaned Ron, grey-faced. I knew it, Hermione gasped. Snape, look. Ron grabbed the binoculars. Snape was in the middle of the stands opposite them. He had his eyes fixed on Harry and was muttering non-stop under his breath. He's jinxing the broom, Hermione said. What should we do? Leave it to me. Meanwhile, Harry had identified the conflicting magical signatures, one from Quirrell, one from Snape. Interestingly, they seemed to be working against each other rather than in concert. One was causing the broom to buck, the other was attempting a stabilizing countercurse. With vampire strength, Harry could maintain his grip indefinitely, but he needed the interference to stop before someone noticed his unusual endurance. Focusing his own magic through his body, a technique Elisa Beta had taught him for wandless defensive casting, he created a momentary disruption field around the broom, breaking both spells' connections briefly. In that instant of stability, he swung himself back onto the broom and shot toward the ground, having spotted the snitch hovering near the Gryffindor goalposts while everyone was distracted by his predicament. He stretched out his hand, fingers closing around the struggling golden ball just as a commotion broke out in the teacher's stands. Hermione had set fire to Snape's robes as a distraction, unaware that Harry had already resolved the situation. I've got the snitch. He shouted, holding it up, and the game ended in complete confusion. He didn't catch it, he nearly swallowed it. Flint was still howling 20 minutes later, but it made no difference. Harry hadn't broken any rules, and Lee Jordan was still happily shouting the results. Gryffindor had won by 170 points to 60. Harry, however, was being escorted to Hagrid's hut by Ron and Hermione for a strong cup of tea, his mind racing with questions about what had just happened. It was Snape, Ron explained. Hermione and I saw him. He was cursing your broomstick, muttering, he wouldn't take his eyes off you. No, you're wrong, Harry said quietly. Snape was casting a counter-curse. The real jinx was coming from elsewhere. That can't be right, Hermione protested. I saw him clearly. Counter-curses require the same intense concentration and eye contact as jinxes, Harry explained. My senses detected two conflicting magical signatures, one attacking, one defending. But who else would want to hurt you? Ron asked. Harry hesitated, not ready to voice his suspicions about Quirrell without more evidence. I don't know yet. But I intend to find out. Hagrid, who had been listening to this conversation with growing concern, set down his teapot with a thud. That's rubbish. Why would anyone try to kill Harry? The three friends exchanged glances. I found out something about the third-floor corridor, Harry said cautiously. About what's guarding whatever's hidden there. Hagrid dropped the teapot. How do you know about Fluffy? Fluffy? That thing has a name. Ron asked incredulously. Yeah, he's mine. Bought him off a Greek chappie I met in the pub last year. I lent him to Dumbledore to guard the, Hagrid caught himself. Now, don't ask me any more. That's top secret, that is. But someone's trying to steal it, Hermione insisted. Whoever jinxed Harry's broom. Rubbish, Hagrid repeated. It's too well protected. Not just Fluffy, all sorts of enchantments. Professor Sprout, Professor Flitwick, Professor McGonagall, he ticked them off on his fingers, Professor Quirrell, and Dumbledore himself did something, oh, course. Hang on, I shouldn't ha' told ya that. Quirrell. Harry repeated, filing away this confirmation of his involvement in the protections. Interesting. Look, Hagrid said firmly, you're meddlin' in things that don't concern ya. Forget that dog, and forget what it's guardin'. That's between Professor Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel, Nicholas Flamel. Harry pounced on the name immediately, recognizing it from his studies with Elisa Beta. So that's whose work is being protected. Hagrid looked furious with himself, but Harry had already connected the pieces. Nicholas Flamel, the ancient alchemist, creator of the Philosopher's Stone, the legendary artifact that could transform any metal into pure gold and produce the elixir of life, which would make the drinker immortal. No wonder someone was desperate to steal it. That evening, after reporting the day's events to Elisa Beta via the communication mirror, Harry shared his conclusions with Ron and Hermione in his private quarters. The Philosopher's Stone, he explained. That's what's being protected. Flamel is the only known maker of such an artifact. Eternal life and unlimited gold, Hermione breathed. No wonder someone's trying to steal it. But who? Ron wondered. And why try to kill you during the match? Perhaps they believe I'm investigating, or perhaps. Harry hesitated. Perhaps they know about my connection to Voldemort and fear I might interfere with their plans. The mention of Voldemort made Ron flinch. You think it's you-know-who trying to get the stone? But he's gone. Not gone, Harry said grimly, touching his scar. Defeated, diminished, but not gone. My clan has suspected for years that he took measures to prevent his complete death. If he's found a way to maintain some form of existence, the elixir of life would be his path to full restoration. Hermione looked terrified at this possibility. We need to tell Dumbledore. With what evidence? Harry asked reasonably. We have theories but no proof. And Dumbledore already knows the stone is a target, that's why it's so heavily protected. So what do we do? Ron asked. We watch. We gather information. And we prepare for the possibility that we may need to act if the protections fail. As November transitioned to December, Harry maintained vigilant observation of both Quirrell and Snape, noting that the defense professor seemed to be growing paler and more nervous by the day, as if under immense pressure from an unseen source. The pain in Harry's scar occurred more frequently in Quirrell's presence, especially when the professor's back was turned toward him. Hogwarts transformed beautifully for the Christmas season, with 12 towering Christmas trees in the Great Hall, festoons of holly and mistletoe hanging from the ceilings, and enchanted snow falling from the ceiling. When the holiday sign-up sheet was posted, Harry informed McGonagall that he would be returning to his family for the break. "My mother has invited Ron and Hermione to join us for part of the holiday, with their parents' permission," he explained. McGonagall looked surprised. "Their parents have agreed to this arrangement?" "Yes, Professor. The formal invitations have been sent, with assurances regarding safety and supervision." In truth, Elisa Beta had orchestrated an elaborate diplomatic effort to secure this visit, sending elegant invitations that carefully omitted specific details about the Nightshade clan's vampire nature while emphasizing the educational and cultural opportunities the visit would provide. The Grangers, academic-minded muggles who were eager for their daughter to experience all aspects of magical culture, had agreed readily. The Weasleys had been more hesitant until Arthur's ministry connections confirmed that the Nightshade clan, while technically classified as dark creatures, had maintained peaceful relations with the wizarding community for centuries. When the Hogwarts Express departed for London in mid-December, Harry, Ron, and Hermione found themselves in a compartment together, discussing the upcoming visit to the Nightshade Sanctuary. "My parents were so excited," Hermione said. "They've been fascinated by magic ever since Professor McGonagall visited to explain about Hogwarts. The chance to learn about another magical culture, even if they can only know the basic outlines for security reasons, was too good to pass up." "Mum was nervous," Ron admitted. "Dad had to do some research at the ministry to convince her it was safe. Bill, my oldest brother, says vampire clans have been misrepresented in wizard history, which helped." "Your brother is correct," Harry confirmed. "The history between vampires and wizards is complex, filled with misunderstandings on both sides. This visit is actually something of a historic event, wizard children being welcomed into a vampire sanctuary as guests rather than, well, dinner." Ron paled slightly, and Harry laughed. "That was a joke, Ron. As I've told you before, my clan hasn't fed on unwilling humans for centuries. We have ethical alternatives." At King's Cross Station, Elisa Beta and Lysander awaited them on platform 9 3/4, drawing many curious and some fearful glances from other magical families. Elisa Beta wore elegant robes of deep purple that complemented her pale complexion and dark hair, while Lysander stood slightly behind her in customary black, his expression carefully neutral. "Mother," Harry greeted formally, embracing Elisa Beta briefly. "Brother," he added with a nod to Lysander, who returned the gesture with a slight smile. "Harry," Elisa Beta replied warmly. "We've missed you." She turned her attention to his friends. "Miss Granger, Mr. Weasley. Welcome. We're pleased you accepted our invitation." Ron seemed momentarily stunned in Elisabetta's presence, a common reaction to ancient vampires, whose supernatural beauty often had a mesmerizing effect on humans. Hermione, showing remarkable composure, stepped forward and extended her hand. "Thank you for inviting us, Lady Nightshade. I'm very excited to learn about vampire culture." Elisa Beta took Hermione's hand briefly. "Your academic reputation precedes you, Miss Granger. Harry speaks highly of your intelligence and loyalty." Ron, recovering his wits, managed a respectful nod. "Thanks for having us, Lady Nightshade. Our transportation awaits," Elisa Beta said, gesturing toward the barrier. "We'll depart directly from a secure location nearby." They passed through to the Muggle side of the station and were led to an elegant black car with darkened windows waiting outside. The interior was magically expanded to comfortably seat all 5 of them. As they settled in, Lysander finally spoke. "Harry. Your flying technique in the Slytherin match was adequate. Though your dive angle could use refinement." Harry grinned, recognizing this as high praise from his taciturn brother. "I learned from the best, though you never mentioned the possibility of cursed broomsticks. An oversight I'll remedy in your next training session," Lysander replied dryly. The car wound through London traffic with preternatural smoothness, eventually stopping in what appeared to be a dead-end alley. They exited the vehicle, which drove away immediately, leaving them standing before a nondescript brick wall. The Nightshade Sanctuary has existed beneath London for 5 centuries, Elisabetta explained to Ron and Hermione. Few wizards have ever been welcomed inside. You are being granted a rare privilege based on Harry's trust in you both. She placed her palm against the wall, which shimmered and revealed a doorway. Enter freely and of your own will, she intoned, the ritual phrase carrying the same weight it had when Harry first entered 5 years ago. Ron and Hermione exchanged nervous glances before following Harry through the doorway. The passage beyond sloped gently downward, illuminated by the same floating blue orbs Harry remembered from his first visit. The blue light is specially calibrated, Hermione observed as they descended. It provides illumination without the harmful effects sunlight can have on vampire physiology. Indeed, Miss Granger, Elisabetta confirmed, looking impressed. You've researched our kind thoroughly. Most books in the Hogwarts library are terribly prejudiced, Hermione admitted. I had to read between the lines. They emerged into the main chamber, which had been prepared for the human visitors. The usual dim lighting had been increased slightly for human comfort, and the temperature, normally kept cool to accommodate vampire preference, had been warmed to a pleasant level. Several clan members awaited their arrival, including Serena, who had helped Harry on his first night, and Lord Casimir, the eldest council member. Introductions were made with formal vampire courtesy, which seemed to both intimidate and fascinate their guests. You will be staying in guest quarters near Harry's chambers, Elisabetta explained. They've been prepared with human comforts in mind. After you've settled in, we'll have a welcoming feast. Ron perked up at the mention of food. What exactly do vampires eat at feasts? He asked nervously. Lysander's lips quirked in amusement. For tonight's gathering, human-compatible cuisine has been arranged. Though I believe there are several rare steaks on the menu for Harry and those of us who prefer our meat, minimally cooked. The guest quarters exceeded even Hogwarts in luxury, spacious rooms with elegant furnishings, private bathrooms with enormous sunken tubs, and every comfort imaginable. Ron wandered his room in awe, touching the silk bedcovers and ornate furniture as if they might disappear. Bloody hell, he whispered. This is how you grew up. It took some getting used to after the Dursleys' cupboard, Harry admitted. But yes, this became home. Hermione was examining the bookshelves that lined one wall of her room. These volumes, some of them look ancient. The Nightshade Library contains texts dating back millennia, Harry explained. Those are just general references Elisabetta thought you might enjoy. The real collection is much more extensive. Can I see it? Hermione asked eagerly. Tomorrow, Harry promised. There's a formal schedule for your visit that includes a library tour. The welcoming feast was held in the clan's grand dining hall, a space rarely used except for significant occasions. The long table was set with silver, a deliberate statement, as vampire clan members were immune to the metal's traditional effects on lesser vampires, and crystal. Enchanted candles floated above, casting a warm glow that complemented the blue ambient light. Ron and Hermione were seated on either side of Harry, with Elisabetta at the head of the table and Lysander opposite. Other council members and significant clan figures filled the remaining seats. The food, as promised, included options for human palates alongside the bloody rare meats and specialized vampire fare. A toast, Elisabetta announced, raising a crystal goblet filled with a dark red liquid. To new friendships and old traditions, to bridges between worlds and the knowledge that comes from understanding. Everyone raised their glasses. Ron eyed his goblet suspiciously until Harry whispered, "It's just wine for you." Enhanced perception, remember? I can smell the difference. The feast progressed with surprising warmth. Initially reserved, the vampire clan members gradually engaged with the young wizards, asking thoughtful questions about Hogwarts and offering carefully edited stories from their centuries of existence. Hermione was in her element, absorbing every detail and asking insightful questions that impressed even the usually taciturn Casimir. Ron, after his initial nervousness faded, charmed several clan members with his straightforward humor and genuine curiosity. When he challenged Lysander to a game of wizard chess, the vampire accepted with unexpected enthusiasm, and the two soon became engrossed in a match that drew spectators from around the table. "Checkmate," Ron announced triumphantly an hour later, having trapped Lysander's king in an elegant combination. A murmur of surprise ran through the watching vampires. Lysander was the clan's acknowledged chess master. Lysander stared at the board in disbelief before looking up at Ron with newfound respect. "Well played, young Weasley. Few have bested me in the last century." Ron's ears turned pink with pleasure. "Thanks. Been playing since I was 3. My brother Percy taught me, then I got better than him, which he hates." "You have a natural gift for strategy," Lysander observed. "A rematch tomorrow, perhaps." The holiday continued in this vein, a carefully structured program that introduced Ron and Hermione to vampire culture while respecting security boundaries. They toured the extensive library, where Hermione nearly fainted with delight at seeing manuscripts dating back to ancient Rome. They observed modified training sessions where clan members demonstrated vampire fighting techniques, with Harry participating to show his hybrid abilities in a controlled environment. "So that's how you knocked out the troll," Ron marveled after watching Harry spar with Lysander. "Wicked." Special accommodations were made for Christmas Day itself, with traditional wizard holiday customs incorporated alongside vampire traditions. Gifts were exchanged, Elisa Beta presenting Ron and Hermione with specially selected books from the Nightshade Library that were duplicates of texts they could legally possess. Vampire Clans Through the Ages, Hermione read the title of her massive tome with reverence. "This is incredible. I've never seen this referenced in any Hogwarts texts." "Because wizard historians prefer to pretend we don't have culture," Lysander commented dryly. "Just fangs and bloodlust." Ron received Strategic Thinking, Magical Combat and Games, a rare volume that combined wizard chess theory with battle tactics. "This is brilliant," he said, already flipping through pages. "Thanks." Harry's gifts to his friends were equally thoughtful. For Hermione, a specially commissioned set of self-filling notebooks with protective enchantments to prevent anyone but her from reading them. For Ron, a professional quality chess set with pieces carved from black and white marble that had been charmed by Nightshade enchanters to be exceptionally clever and loyal to their owner. The most surprising gift came from Lysander to Harry, a custom-designed Seeker's Practice set with enchanted golden spheres that could be programmed to mimic different snitch flight patterns and speeds. "Your flying is adequate," Lysander said gruffly as Harry examined the gift. "But adequate isn't acceptable for a Nightshade." "Thank you," Harry replied, genuinely touched by his brother's thoughtfulness. "I'll make you proud next match." Between festivities, Harry found time to discuss the Philosopher's Stone situation with Elisa Beta and the Council. He shared his suspicions about Quirrell, the information they'd gathered about the protections, and his concerns about Voldemort's possible involvement. "Your instincts about Quirrell align with our intelligence," Elisa Beta confirmed. "Our sources at the Ministry report he spent significant time in Albania before taking the defense position, the same region where rumors of a dark presence have persisted for years." "Possession?" Casimir suggested grimly. "It would explain the pain in Harry's scar when near the man." "A logical theory," Elisa Beta agreed. "If Voldemort exists as a spectral entity, he would require a host body to interact with the physical world. And the Philosopher's Stone would provide a means to create his own body again," Harry concluded. "Perfect immortality without dependence on a host or unicorn blood." "Unicorn blood?" Lysander asked sharply. Harry explained the rumors they'd heard from Hagrid about something attacking unicorns in the Forbidden Forest, drinking their blood and leaving them to die. "Unicorn blood will sustain life even if one is inches from death," Vanya said softly. "But at a terrible price. The life preserved is cursed from the moment the blood touches the lips." "A desperate measure," Elisa Beta observed. "Which suggests whatever form Voldemort currently exists in is unstable or weakening. The stone has become not just desirable but necessary for his continued existence." What should we do? Harry asked. Continue monitoring the situation, Elisabetta instructed. If Quirrell makes a move for the stone, alert us immediately. The Nightshade clan has as much interest in preventing Voldemort's return as Dumbledore does, perhaps more, given the Dark Lord's historical hatred of half-breeds, as he called us. The remainder of the holiday passed pleasantly. By the time they prepared to return to Hogwarts, both Ron and Hermione had developed a new understanding of vampire culture and, more importantly, genuine respect for Harry's adoptive family. I never thought I'd say this, Ron admitted as they packed their trunks, but your vampire family is brilliant. Different, yeah, but brilliant. Lady Elisabetta is one of the most intelligent people I've ever met, Hermione added. And the library, Harry, I could spend years in there and never read everything. Thank you both, Harry said sincerely. For coming, for keeping an open mind. It means a lot to have friends who accept all parts of who I am. They returned to Hogwarts with renewed determination to protect the Philosopher's Stone and solve the mystery of Quirrell's connection to Voldemort. The bridge between worlds that Harry represented had strengthened, not just within himself but through the new bonds formed between his wizard friends and vampire family. As the Hogwarts Express carried them back to school, Harry found himself thinking of the Sorting Hat's words, a bridge between worlds, between light and dark, human and other. His path was becoming clearer, and with friends in both worlds, he felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Chapter 3, Two Worlds Colliding. Harry tossed restlessly in his private Hogwarts quarters, a familiar burning sensation waking him hours before dawn. His scar hadn't just prickled this time, it had flared with white-hot pain that jolted him from sleep. Sweat beaded on his forehead as fragmentary images lingered from his dream, a hooded figure drinking silvery blood from a fallen unicorn, Quirrell unwrapping his turban to reveal something monstrous, and the Nightshade sanctuary in flames. He sat up, rubbing his scar. The connection between these images wasn't just his subconscious mixing fears, it felt like a warning. Without hesitation, he retrieved his communication mirror from its hiding place. Elisabetta Nightshade, he called urgently. The mirror's surface swirled with mist before clearing to reveal his adoptive mother's face, alert despite the early hour. Harry. What's happened? No grogginess, no confusion, vampires didn't sleep as humans did, and Elisabetta could tell from his expression that something was wrong. A vision, my scar, I saw the sanctuary under attack. The words tumbled out as Harry described the nightmare in detail. It felt real, not just a dream. Elisabetta's crimson eyes narrowed. Your timing is uncanny. We've detected unusual activity around our outer wards tonight, subtle probing attempts rather than direct assault. Sanguis? Harry asked, naming the vampire lord who had threatened them years ago. Possibly. The magical signature bears similarities to his methods. She paused, considering. Your scar's connection to Voldemort has always shown sensitivity to threats. Perhaps it now extends to dangers facing your vampire family as well. I should come home, Harry said immediately, already rising. No. Elisabetta's tone brooked no argument. The sanctuary is well protected, and your presence at Hogwarts keeps you safely away from potential danger. Lysander has already activated the ancient defenses and alerted our allies. Harry reluctantly sat back down. At least let me know what's happening. If Sanguis is making his move, we will handle it, Elisabetta assured him. Focus on your own safety. The timing suggests coordination between threats, Voldemort's servant at Hogwarts and Sanguis's forces here. They may be attempting to divide our attention. After ending the communication, Harry found himself too agitated to return to sleep. His enhanced senses detected the first hints of approaching dawn as he paced his room, torn between duty to his education at Hogwarts and loyalty to his vampire clan. By breakfast, his worry had only intensified. He picked listlessly at his food, drawing concerned glances from Ron and Hermione. Mate, you look terrible, Ron observed through a mouthful of toast. Everything all right? Harry hesitated before leaning closer. I think the Nightshade Sanctuary is under threat. I had a vision last night, my scar burned. Hermione's eyes widened. Your scar hurt? Harry, that's serious. Should we tell Dumbledore? Not yet, Harry said, shaking his head. Elisabetta confirmed they detected someone testing their defenses but insisted they can handle it. And Dumbledore has enough concerns with the stone. Still, if your scar's hurting, Ron began. It connects to Voldemort somehow, Harry explained quietly. But this felt different, like a warning about multiple threats converging. Their conversation cut short as the morning owl post arrived in a flurry of wings. Hedwig swooped down, depositing a letter sealed with the Nightshade crest before stealing a piece of bacon from Harry's plate. He broke the seal immediately, recognizing Lysander's handwriting. Harry, Mother instructed me to update you. Sanctuary defenses repelled initial infiltration attempt at 3:17 a.m. No casualties on our side. Captured one assailant, confirmed Sanguis's involvement. Enhanced security protocols activated. Maintain normal routine at Hogwarts. Do not attempt independent action. LPS. Your chess friend Weasley would appreciate the elegant defensive formation our guards employed. Perhaps a lesson for your next game. They're okay, Harry breathed in relief, passing the note to his friends. But Sanguis is definitely behind it. Who exactly is this Sanguis bloke? Ron asked. You've mentioned him before. Lord Erebus Sanguis, Harry explained, keeping his voice low. Ancient vampire lord, believes vampires should rule over wizards rather than coexist. He sees my adoption as a contamination of vampire bloodlines. And he's powerful enough to attack your entire clan? Hermione looked alarmed. He commands a network of radical vampire purists, Harry confirmed. They've mostly stuck to politics and intimidation until now. This direct action suggests something's changed. Their morning classes passed in a blur of distraction for Harry. During Transfiguration, he barely noticed when his matchstick transformed into a silver needle on his first attempt, something he'd normally have hidden to avoid drawing attention to his advanced abilities. Well done, Mr. Potter Nightshade, Professor McGonagall said with a raised eyebrow. Perhaps you could assist Mr. Finnegan, who seems to be setting his matchstick on fire rather than transfiguring it. By lunchtime, Harry's anxiety had sharpened into resolve. If threats were converging from both vampire and wizard fronts, he needed to accelerate his investigation of the Philosopher's Stone. He outlined his thinking to Ron and Hermione as they huddled at the end of the Gryffindor table. We need to find out exactly what's guarding the stone besides Fluffy, he said. Hagrid mentioned enchantments from different professors. If we can identify them all, we might spot weaknesses Quirrell could exploit. But how? Hermione asked. It's not like the professors will just tell us their security measures. We start with research, Harry decided. Each professor would use their specialty. Sprout would use dangerous plants, Flitwick charms, McGonagall transfiguration. And Snape potions, Ron added. Plus whatever Quirrell added, though if he's the one trying to steal it. He might have built in a backdoor, Harry finished. Exactly. That afternoon, they began systematic research in the library, focusing on each professor's area of expertise and noting particularly powerful or obscure spells they might have employed. Hermione took charge of organizing their findings, creating a detailed chart of possible protections and countermeasures. Devil's Snare seems likely for Professor Sprout, she noted, adding it to their growing list. It's mentioned in our herbology text as ideal for trapping intruders. Flying keys would be perfect for Flitwick, Ron suggested. Charms plus levitation. Harry nodded in agreement. And McGonagall would use transfiguration with a strategic element, something like a giant chess set, given her love of the game. As darkness fell, Harry returned to his private quarters, hoping for news from the sanctuary. He didn't have to wait long, the communication mirror activated on its own, Elisabetta's face appearing in its surface. Harry, listen carefully, she began without preamble. The situation has escalated. Sanguis launched a coordinated attack on the sanctuary an hour ago with significantly larger forces than anticipated. Harry's heart raced. Casualties? 3 wounded, none fatally. The sanctuary's defenses held, but Sanguis himself participated in the assault, the first time he's shown his face in decades rather than operating through proxies. What does he want? Harry asked, though he suspected he knew. You, Elisa Beta confirmed grimly. A captured assassin revealed Sanguis believes killing you would prevent some greater calamity facing vampire kind. He's become convinced your hybrid nature and connection to Voldemort represent an existential threat. Harry absorbed this with a cold feeling spreading through his chest. He knows about the scar fragment. Unfortunately, yes. Intelligence has been leaked. Sanguis now refers to you as the twice-marked one and speaks of prophecies beyond the one Dumbledore knows. Vampire prophecies? This was new information to Harry. Ancient ones, largely dismissed as superstition by modern councils, Elisa Beta explained. They speak of a bridge between worlds bringing either salvation or destruction to vampire kind. Sanguis has twisted these to support his agenda. Harry paced the room, mind racing. I should return to the sanctuary. Help defend it. Absolutely not, Elisabetta's tone hardened. Hogwarts remains the safest place for you right now, especially with its connection to Dumbledore. We've increased sanctuary defenses and alerted our allies among the vampire covens of Eastern Europe. Lysander is coordinating with contacts in the Ministry's Department for Regulation of Magical Creatures to monitor Sanguis's movements. After ending the communication, Harry found himself unable to focus on schoolwork. He decided to use his vampire-enhanced night vision to explore the castle, hoping physical activity might clear his head. Slipping out of his quarters under cover of darkness, he moved silently through Hogwarts corridors, avoiding prefects and professors with practiced ease. His wanderings led him to an unfamiliar corridor on the 5th floor, where a door left slightly ajar revealed a classroom that appeared long abandoned. Dust-covered desks pushed against walls, and in the center of the room stood something that didn't belong, a magnificent mirror, as high as the ceiling, with an ornate gold frame standing on 2 clawed feet. An inscription carved around the top read, Erist stra eru oit ube kafru oit anwosi. Harry approached cautiously, his vampire senses detecting powerful magic emanating from the mirror. When he stood directly before it, he had to suppress a startled cry. The mirror didn't show just his reflection, it showed him surrounded by family. Not just Elisa Beta and Lysander, but others he recognized only from photographs. James and Lily Potter stood smiling beside his vampire family, with no tension or division between them. Behind them stood rows of figures, some with Potter features, others bearing the distinctive appearance of nightshade vampires, all united as one extended family. In the image, Harry himself appeared fully mature, confidently bridging both worlds, neither fully vampire nor purely wizard but something new and powerful. The mirror of Erist, came a quiet voice from behind him. A most remarkable and dangerous artifact. Harry turned to find Dumbledore standing in the shadows, watching him with those penetrating blue eyes. Professor, Harry acknowledged, controlling his startled reaction. I didn't sense your approach. This troubled him, his vampire abilities should have detected the headmaster's presence. Few do when I don't wish to be noticed, Dumbledore said with a small smile. I see you've discovered one of Hogwarts' most fascinating secrets. The mirror shows what we want, Harry said, glancing back at the impossible family reunion depicted in its surface. Our deepest desire. Indeed, Dumbledore moved closer. The happiest man on earth would look in the mirror and see only himself, exactly as he is. But for the rest of us, it shows nothing more or less than the deepest, most desperate desire of our hearts. Harry nodded slowly. A family unified, my birth parents and my adopted vampire family together without conflict or division. A powerful desire, Dumbledore observed. And most revealing. Many would expect Harry Potter to desire simply his parents' return to life. But you, Harry Nightshade Potter, desire integration rather than replacement, a harmony between your two worlds. Is that surprising, Professor? Harry asked quietly. Not surprising, perhaps, but reassuring. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. It suggests a wisdom beyond your years, understanding that adding love to one's life needn't diminish what came before. They stood in contemplative silence before Dumbledore continued. The mirror will be moved to a new home tomorrow, Harry, and I ask you not to go looking for it again. Men have wasted away before it, entranced by what they saw, or been driven mad, not knowing if what it shows is real or even possible. I understand, sir. Harry hesitated, then decided to risk a question. Does the mirror have other properties? Beyond showing desires? Dumbledore's gaze sharpened. What makes you ask? The magic it contains feels complex. Layered. As if showing desires is only one aspect of its power. Very perceptive, Dumbledore acknowledged. The mirror of Erist is indeed more than it appears, like many inhabitants of Hogwarts. His meaningful look made it clear he was referring to Harry himself. Harry recognized the subtle opening. Speaking of things being more than they appear, Professor. I've been having concerns about Professor Quirrell. Have you indeed? Dumbledore's expression revealed nothing. What sort of concerns? Harry chose his words carefully. My scar hurts in his presence, particularly when his back is to me. And my enhanced senses detect something wrong. A second magical signature overlaying his own. Dumbledore's casual demeanor shifted subtly. These are serious observations, Harry. Have you shared them with anyone else? Only Ron and Hermione, Harry admitted. And my mother, Lady Elisabetta. I see. Dumbledore seemed to consider his next words carefully. I would ask you to exercise extreme caution around Professor Quirrell, but do nothing to alert him to your suspicions. Some situations require careful observation before action. You already suspect him, Harry realized. I have concerns about several matters at Hogwarts this year, Dumbledore replied enigmatically. Now, I believe it's well past curfew, even for a student with your unique advantages. I suggest you return to your quarters. Harry recognized the dismissal but pressed one more point. Professor, there's something else you should know. The Nightshade Sanctuary was attacked today by Lord Sandwis and his followers. I believe the timing may not be coincidental. This information genuinely seemed to surprise Dumbledore. Is the clan secure? For now. But Sandwis appears to be coordinating with someone, possibly whoever is seeking the Philosopher's Stone. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. You've deduced what's being protected, then. Nicholas Flamel is your friend and partner in alchemy, Harry said simply. Once Hagrid mentioned his name, it wasn't difficult to connect to the stone. Indeed. Dumbledore studied Harry with renewed interest. Your education with the Nightshade clan has clearly been thorough. I will look into this potential connection between Lord Sandwis and events at Hogwarts. For now, please return to your quarters, and Harry. Do be careful. You may be caught between more forces than you realize. The following morning, Harry relayed his conversation with Dumbledore to Ron and Hermione over breakfast. He basically confirmed everything, Harry concluded. The stone, concerns about Quirrell, even acknowledged the mirror might have additional properties. But he didn't actually tell you anything new, Hermione pointed out. Classic Dumbledore, from what I've read, gives the impression of sharing while keeping the important details to himself. At least he's looking into the Sandwis connection, Ron said. That's something, right? Harry nodded, but his expression remained troubled. What bothers me is how easily he appeared behind me. My vampire senses should have detected him. It makes me wonder what else I'm missing. Their conversation paused as the morning mail arrived. Hedwig swooped down with another letter bearing the Nightshade seal. This one contained a longer message from Elisabetta. Harry, situation stabilized for now. Sandwich retreated after sustained assault failed to breach inner sanctum. Incursion pattern suggests he was searching for something specific rather than mounting a full invasion. Council intelligence indicates he's retreated to his stronghold in the Carpathian Mountains to regroup. More concerning, we've identified a magical signature during the attack that doesn't match known vampire spellcraft. Analysis suggests wizard involvement, specifically, dark magic similar to what was reported during Voldemort's rise. This supports your theory of coordination between threats. I've initiated contact with Dumbledore through secure channels. Mutual interest demands cooperation despite historical tensions between our kinds. Maintain vigilance. Trust your instincts, but verify your perceptions. Magical interference may be affecting even your enhanced senses. With concern, Elisa Beta P.S. Lysander asks that you drill the defensive seeker maneuvers he taught you. He insists they apply to more than Quidditch. Wizard magic during a vampire attack. Hermione whispered after reading the letter. That can't be coincidence. And not just any wizard magic, dark magic like Voldemort's, Harry emphasized. The threats aren't just converging, they're collaborating. But why would Sandwich work with Voldemort? Ron asked, bewildered. Vampires hate dark wizards as much as anyone. My dad says you know who massacred entire covens during the war. Political expedience, Harry suggested grimly. Sandwich might believe he can use Voldemort's return to advance his own agenda, create enough chaos in the wizard world to strengthen vampire independence. The next few weeks passed in a blur of increased vigilance and preparation. Harry intensified his private training regimen, focusing on the defensive techniques Lysander had emphasized. During Quidditch practice, he incorporated combat maneuvers into his flying, much to Oliver Wood's confusion and admiration. Whatever that move is, Potter Nightshade, it's brilliant. Wood exclaimed after Harry executed a particularly complex evasive pattern. The Slytherin Seeker won't know what hit him. Let's hope it never comes to actual hitting, Harry replied with a thin smile. In classes, Harry paid special attention to Quirrell, noting how the professor's condition seemed to deteriorate day by day. Dark circles formed under his eyes, his stutter worsened, and the garlic smell that perpetually surrounded him intensified, as if trying to mask another, more disturbing scent that Harry's vampire senses occasionally detected beneath it, decay. The Easter holidays arrived with a mountain of homework as professors prepared them for end-of-year exams. Harry, Ron, and Hermione spent most of their free time in the library, ostensibly studying but often researching protective enchantments and Voldemort's history for clues to the current situation. During one such session, Harry came across a disturbing reference in a book about magical parasites. Listen to this, he whispered to his friends. Among the darkest forms of magical parasitism is possession, wherein a disembodied spirit inhabits a host body. Signs include personality changes, physical deterioration of the host, and bizarre sensory anomalies such as unusual smells or sounds emanating from the possessed. That describes Quirrell perfectly, Hermione gasped. The nervousness, the declining health, even the weird garlic smell that might be covering something else. If Voldemort is possessing Quirrell, Harry continued, it explains why my scar reacts to him, especially when his back is turned to me. His back. Ron repeated. Why especially then? Harry frowned in concentration. The turban. He's always wearing that turban. What if, he broke off as a chilling possibility occurred to him. What if Voldemort isn't fully integrated with Quirrell? What if he's somehow attached to the back of his head, hidden by the turban? That's horrifying, Hermione whispered, looking pale. But it makes sense, Harry insisted. The pain is worst when I can't see Quirrell's face, when the back of his head is toward me. Their research took on new urgency after this realization. Meanwhile, communications from the Nightshade Sanctuary reported increased vampire activity throughout Europe, with Sandwich apparently gathering allies among the more radical covens. As exams approached, tension mounted from all directions. Students stressed over their upcoming tests, professors assigned more homework than seemed humanly possible to complete, and Harry felt the weight of multiple threats converging towards some inevitable confrontation. One afternoon, while crossing the grounds after a particularly grueling Quidditch practice, Harry spotted Hagrid furtively heading toward the Forbidden Forest carrying what appeared to be a dead chicken. "Odd," he remarked to Ron and Hermione, who had come to watch practice. "Hagrid's acting strangely. Let's find out what he's up to," Ron suggested, and they changed course to intercept the gamekeeper before he reached the forest edge. "Harry! Ron! Hermione!" Hagrid looked startled when they called out to him. "What are you three doing here?" "Just finished Quidditch practice," Harry said, eyeing the dead chicken. "Everything all right, Hagrid? You seem troubled." "Me? No, just regular gamekeeper duties," Hagrid said unconvincingly, shifting to hide the chicken behind his massive frame. "Nothin' to worry about." "Are the unicorns still being attacked?" Harry pressed, noticing Hagrid's unease. The gamekeeper's shoulders slumped. "Yeah, found another one last night. Third this month. Whatever's huntin' them is gettin' bolder. Tryin' to lure it with other bait so it leaves the poor unicorns alone." "Has anyone actually seen the creature doing the hunting?" Hermione asked. "Centaurs have," Hagrid replied grimly. "Won't talk about it directly, all mysterious as usual, goin' on about planets and signs. But they're worried, and centaurs don't scare easy." "What about tonight?" Harry suggested. "We could help you patrol. 4 sets of eyes are better than 1. "Absolutely not." Hagrid looked horrified. "Whatever's killin' unicorns is dangerous. You three are to stay in the castle after dark, understand?" Despite Hagrid's warning, Harry couldn't shake the feeling that the unicorn killings were connected to their larger concerns. That night, he made a decision that he knew was reckless but necessary. "I'm going into the forest," he told Ron and Hermione in his private quarters. "Alone. That's mental." Ron protested. "Hagrid said it's dangerous." "I have advantages neither of you do," Harry reminded them. "Night vision, enhanced smell and hearing, faster reflexes. If whatever's hunting unicorns is connected to Voldemort, I need to confirm it." "At least take your invisibility cloak," Hermione urged, referring to the Potter family heirloom Elisabetta had retrieved from Gringotts for him years ago. Harry agreed, and shortly before midnight, he slipped out of the castle under the cloak's protection. The night air was crisp and clear, stars glittering overhead as he made his way toward the looming darkness of the Forbidden Forest. Once inside the tree line, he removed the cloak, allowing his vampire senses full range without fabric interference. The forest came alive around him in ways ordinary wizards couldn't perceive. His enhanced vision pierced the darkness, revealing paths and clearings invisible to human eyes. His hearing picked up the movement of countless creatures, from tiny insects to larger, more deliberate movements deeper in the woods. Most importantly, his sense of smell detected the distinctive metallic scent of unicorn blood from somewhere to the west. Harry moved silently through the underbrush, following the scent of blood. As he drew closer, he detected another odor intermingled with it, something putrid and unnatural that made his skin crawl. His pace slowed as he approached a clearing where moonlight illuminated a heartbreaking scene. A unicorn lay on its side, its pearly white coat gleaming silver in the moonlight, dark blood pooling around a wound in its flank. And hunched over it was a cloaked figure, drinking the unicorn's blood directly from the wound. Harry froze, every vampire instinct screaming danger. The figure sensed his presence almost immediately, raising its head to reveal silver unicorn blood dripping from beneath its hood. It rose and moved toward him with unnatural gliding motions, as if its feet didn't quite touch the ground. Pain like Harry had never experienced exploded in his scar, nearly blinding him. He staggered backward, fighting to maintain consciousness as the hooded figure advanced. Through the haze of agony, Harry drew his nightshade wand, the one containing vampire blood in its core, and called upon the defensive magic Lysander had drilled into him. "Protego sanguinis," he gasped, invoking a specialized shield spell that incorporated blood magic. A crimson barrier materialized between him and the approaching figure, a hybrid protection that drew upon both his wizard heritage and vampire adoption. The hooded figure recoiled as if struck, emitting a high, cold hiss of fury. Before either could make another move, the thunder of hooves announced new arrivals. A centaur burst into the clearing, rearing up on its hind legs as it charged toward the cloaked figure. The creature fled, moving with that same gliding motion deeper into the forest until it vanished from sight. As the pain in Harry's scar subsided, he found himself facing a palomino centaur with white blonde hair and astonishingly blue eyes. "You are the Potter child," the centaur stated. "And yet, not entirely. Your blood sings with dual nature." "Harry Potter Nightshade," Harry confirmed, keeping his wand ready. "Thank you for your assistance." The centaur's eyes narrowed. "You cast blood magic, ancient and powerful." The stars did not foretell this development. "The stars miss quite a bit these days," Harry replied, unable to keep a hint of dryness from his voice despite the situation. To his surprise, the centaur laughed. "I am Firenze. And you are either very brave or very foolish to enter the forest alone when such danger lurks within." "I needed to confirm what was hunting the unicorns," Harry explained. "Now I know, it's Voldemort, isn't it? Or what remains of him?" Firenze looked solemnly at the dead unicorn. "Only one monstrous enough to slay something so pure would drink unicorn blood. The blood will keep him alive, even if he is an inch from death, but at a terrible price. He slays something innocent and drinks its blood to survive, creating only a half-life, a cursed existence. He's buying time," Harry realized. "Until he can get the Philosopher's Stone and create a proper body." The centaur's eyes widened. "You know of the stone. The signs speak of it, Mars is bright tonight, war approaches, but I did not expect you to have unraveled so much already." "Mars isn't the only one preparing for war," Harry said grimly. "There's movement in the vampire world too, ancient enemies aligning with Voldemort's return." Firenze stamped a hoof nervously. "The union of dark forces is indeed what the heavens foretell. Come, I will carry you back to the castle. The forest is not safe, especially for one who bears 2 marks of destiny." Harry froze. 2 marks. What do you mean? "The lightning scar is known to all," Firenze replied, gesturing for Harry to mount his back. "But you bear another mark, the blood binding of the ancient vampire clan. Together, they create a convergence the centaurs have observed in the stars for months." As Firenze carried him to the edge of the forest, Harry pressed for more information, but the centaur became typically cryptic, speaking of planetary alignments and cosmic balance. He left Harry at the forest's edge with a final warning: "The darkness gathers on multiple fronts, Harry Potter Nightshade. When the time comes to choose your path, remember that sometimes the greatest strength lies in embracing all aspects of one's nature rather than forcing them into conflict." Harry returned to his quarters and immediately contacted Elisabetta via the mirror, relaying his encounter with the unicorn killer and Firenze's cryptic warnings. "Drinking unicorn blood?" Elisabetta looked genuinely disturbed. "That confirms our worst fears. Voldemort exists in some form, parasitic, diminished, but actively working to restore himself." And the centaur's reference to 2 marks of destiny, the same phrase Sanguis apparently used, Harry added. "Too specific to be coincidence." "Indeed." Elisabetta's expression grew contemplative. "There are ancient vampire prophecies that speak of a twice-marked one who would either lead to our salvation or destruction. Most modern covens dismiss these as superstition, but traditionalists like Sanguis treat them as gospel." "So I'm caught between 2 prophecies?" Harry asked incredulously. "The wizard one about defeating Voldemort and a vampire one about, what exactly?" "Bridging worlds," Elisabetta replied. "The prophecies are fragmentary, but they speak of one marked by both human and vampire magic who would either unify our kinds or lead to the final separation of our worlds." "No pressure, then," Harry muttered. "Prophecies are guidelines, not absolutes," Elisabetta reminded him. But they explain Sanguis's sudden aggression. He believes preventing Voldemort's return is necessary to protect vampire kind, and you're the key to both. Harry spent a restless night processing this information before sharing it with Ron and Hermione the next morning. They were horrified by his forest adventure but equally concerned about its implications. "So you know who is definitely after the stone," Ron summarized. "And this Sanguis bloke thinks stopping him is tied to you somehow. Which means both threats are accelerating toward the same goal," Hermione added. "We're running out of time." Her assessment proved prophetic. That same afternoon, they overheard Professor McGonagall telling Flitwick that Dumbledore had been urgently summoned to the Ministry of London, supposedly for an emergency Wisengamot session. "Convenient timing," Harry muttered as they huddled in an empty classroom. "With Dumbledore gone, there's nothing stopping Quirrell from making his move." "We should tell another teacher," Hermione suggested. Professor McGonagall would listen. They approached McGonagall immediately, but their warnings were firmly rebuffed. "I don't know how you found out about the stone," she said, looking at them in a mixture of shock and suspicion, "but I assure you it is perfectly well protected. Now, I suggest you all go back outside and enjoy the sunshine." But Harry couldn't shake the feeling of impending crisis. That evening, he received an urgent message via owl, not from the Nightshade Sanctuary but from one of their informants within the Ministry. Dumbledore summons confirmed false. Magical signature on Ministry letter matches detected interference during Sanctuary attack. Trap suspected. Exercise extreme caution. Tonight, Harry said decisively after showing the note to Ron and Hermione. "Quirrell will go after the stone tonight while Dumbledore's away." "What do we do?" Hermione asked, her face pale but determined. "We go through the trapdoor before Quirrell does," Harry decided. "Or at least, I do. You two should alert the teachers, try McGonagall again, and Snape too. Whatever his faults, he doesn't want Voldemort returning." "No way," Ron said firmly. "We're coming with you." "It's too dangerous," Harry protested. "You haven't had my training. And you haven't had friends before us," Hermione countered. "That's what friends do, they stand together, especially against dark wizards and vampire lords." Harry felt a surge of emotion at their loyalty. "All right. But we do this carefully, with a plan." They spent the next hour preparing, gathering useful items from their dormitories, reviewing spells that might help against the protections, and mapping the quickest route to the third-floor corridor. Harry retrieved both his wands, the invisibility cloak, and a small vial of strengthening potion Elisa Beta had provided for emergencies. At midnight, they set out under the invisibility cloak, narrowly avoiding Peeves before reaching the forbidden corridor. The door was already ajar, confirming their suspicions that Quirrell had begun his attempt. Inside, they found Fluffy awake and growling, but an enchanted harp played softly in the corner, keeping the massive three-headed dog drowsy. "Quirrell's been here," Harry whispered. "The harp's his work, musical enchantment to replace whatever he used initially to get past Fluffy." They waited until Fluffy's 6 eyes drooped completely closed, then moved toward the trapdoor. When Ron pulled it open, they peered down into utter darkness. "Can you see the bottom?" Ron asked Harry, knowing his vampire vision might penetrate where theirs couldn't. Harry nodded. "It's deep, but there's something soft at the bottom, some kind of plant, I think." "Devil's snare," Hermione said immediately. "It must be Professor Sprout's protection." "I'll go first," Harry decided. "If it's safe, I'll call up to you." He dropped through the opening, landing lightly on the plant below. Immediately, snake-like tendrils began wrapping around his legs. Harry recognized Devil's Snare from their herbology lessons and remained perfectly still, allowing the plant to mistake him for a harmless object. The tendrils loosened, and he slipped through to the stone floor below. "It's Devil's Snare," he called up. "Don't struggle against it, stay calm and it will let you through." Ron came next, panicking briefly before Hermione talked him through relaxing. She followed with perfect composure, the plant releasing her almost immediately. "This way," Harry directed, leading them down a stone passageway that sloped gently downward. His enhanced hearing picked up a soft rustling and clinking sound ahead. They emerged into a brilliantly lit chamber with a ceiling soaring high above. The air was filled with what looked like small, jewel-bright birds, except Harry's vision identified them as winged keys fluttering around the room. On the opposite side stood a heavy wooden door. "Flitwick's challenge," Harry said. "We need to catch the right key for that door." Broomsticks leaned against the wall nearby. Harry examined the lock, then scanned the flying keys. "There, that one with the bent wing. It's been caught before," he pointed to an old-fashioned silver key that fluttered with a slightly damaged wing. They mounted the broomsticks, but Harry's Quidditch skills and enhanced reflexes made him the obvious choice to pursue the key. He shot into the air, weaving through the cloud of keys with precision until his fingers closed around the silver key. The moment he caught it, the other keys began diving at him like tiny missiles. "Hurry!" Ron shouted as Harry swooped down, tossing him the key. Ron jammed it into the lock and turned, the door swung open, and they rushed through, slamming it behind them as hundreds of keys thudded into the wood. The next chamber contained a giant chessboard with pieces taller than they were. The black chessmen blocked their path forward, while the white pieces stood opposite. "McGonagall's challenge," Hermione whispered. "We have to play our way across." "No problem," Ron said with unexpected confidence. "This is wizard's chess, strategies the same regardless of scale." Under Ron's direction, they took positions replacing black pieces, Ron as a knight, Hermione as a castle, and Harry as a bishop. What followed was a brutal, life-sized chess game where pieces smashed opponents to rubble when taking them. "This is barbaric," Hermione gasped as the White Queen demolished one of their pawns. "It's wizard chess," Ron replied grimly, his tactical mind fully engaged. "And I can see the path to victory, but—" He hesitated, looking pale. "What is it?" Harry asked, recognizing the look of someone making a difficult calculation. "I need to sacrifice myself," Ron said quietly. "The Queen will take me, leaving you free to checkmate the king, Harry." "No." Hermione protested. "There must be another way," Harry insisted, scanning the board with his enhanced vision, looking for alternatives Ron might have missed. "There isn't," Ron said firmly. "Look, I've analyzed every possible move. This is the only way forward unless we want to start over, and we don't have time." Before they could argue further, Ron moved his knight into position. "Knight to h3. The White Queen turned and advanced on Ron. With a mighty sweep of her stone arm, she struck his stone horse, shattering it and sending Ron crashing to the floor where he lay unmoving. Hermione screamed but stayed on her square as Harry moved 3 spaces to the left. "Checkmate," he declared. The White King removed his crown and threw it at Harry's feet. The chessmen parted, clearing the path to the next door. Harry and Hermione rushed to Ron first. "He's alive," Harry confirmed, his acute hearing detecting Ron's heartbeat and breathing. "Knocked unconscious but not seriously injured." "You go ahead," Hermione decided. "I'll stay with Ron and get help if you don't return quickly." Harry nodded and continued alone through the next door, immediately encountering a disgusting smell that made his sensitive nose burn. A troll, even larger than the one they'd faced on Halloween, lay unconscious on the floor, a bloody lump on its head. "Quirrell's contribution," Harry muttered, stepping carefully around the creature. Already defeated by the defense professor himself. The next room contained a simple table with 7 differently shaped bottles standing in a line. The moment Harry entered, purple flames sprang up behind him while black flames appeared in the doorway leading forward. A rolled parchment on the table contained a logical puzzle, Snape's protection. Harry read the clues carefully, analyzing the riddle that would identify which potion would allow passage through the black flames. His methodical training with Elisa Beta helped him work through the logic quickly. "Third from the left," he decided, picking up a small round bottle. There was barely enough for one swallow. Looking back at the purple flames, he also identified the potion that would allow return, a squat bottle at the right end of the line. He tucked that information away, then drank the contents of the small bottle. An icy sensation spread through his body, and he stepped confidently through the black flames unharmed. The final chamber was circular and empty except for one remarkable object in the center, the mirror of Erist. And standing before it, as Harry had expected, was Professor Quirrell. "I wondered if I'd be seeing you here, Potter," Quirrell said without turning, his voice lacking its usual stutter. "Or should I say, Potter Nightshade?" "I knew it was you," Harry replied calmly, keeping his distance as he assessed the situation. "The troll on Halloween was your distraction. You've been after the stone all year." Very perceptive, Quirrell turned, his face bearing none of its usual twitching nervousness. "A trait you've developed since your unusual adoption." "Yes, your vampire family has trained you well, perhaps too well for our purposes." "Our purposes?" Harry questioned, though he knew exactly who Quirrell meant. A cold, high voice answered, not from Quirrell's mouth, but seemingly from behind him. "Let me speak to him, face to face." "Master, you are not strong enough." Quirrell protested. "I have strength enough, for this." With trembling hands, Quirrell reached up and began unwrapping his turban. As the cloth fell away, he slowly turned, revealing what should have been the back of his head. Instead, a face, the most terrible face Harry had ever seen, projected from Quirrell's skull. Chalk white with glaring red eyes and slits for nostrils, like a snake. "Harry Potter." The face whispered. "See what I have become. Mere shadow and vapor, forced to share another's body. Unicorn blood has strengthened me. But the elixir of life will create a new body of my own." Despite his preparation for this moment, Harry felt his scar explode with pain at the direct confrontation with Voldemort. He fought through it, maintaining his composed stance while his mind raced through options. "Your vampire adoption was unexpected," Voldemort continued. "It has complicated matters significantly. The ancient protections your mother left have been altered by your new blood." "Sorry to inconvenience you," Harry replied, his voice steady despite the pain. "Though I notice you found your own unusual alliances. Lord Sandwith sends his regards." Voldemort's lipless mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "Ah, you've discovered our arrangement. Temporary, I assure you. Sandwith is a fool who believes vampire supremacy could exist alongside my new order. Once I have the stone, his usefulness ends." "And my usefulness?" Harry asked, slowly shifting his position to get a better view of the mirror. "I assume that's why I'm still alive. You need me for something." "Perceptive indeed," Voldemort hissed. "The final protection is Dumbledore's work. The stone is inside the mirror, but I cannot extract it." "Perhaps you can." "Quirrell, bring him here," Voldemort commanded. Quirrell advanced, and Harry allowed himself to be positioned before the mirror of Erist. As he gazed into its depths, he saw his reflection, looking exactly as he did now, but then his mirror self smiled, reached into his pocket and pulled out a blood-red stone. The reflection winked and returned the stone to its pocket, and as it did so, Harry felt a real weight drop into his own pocket. Somehow, incredibly, he had gotten the stone. "Well?" Quirrell demanded impatiently. "What do you see?" Harry thought quickly, drawing upon years of vampire political training in deception and misdirection. "I see myself as Quidditch captain," he lied smoothly. "Holding the house cup." Voldemort's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "He lies. I can sense deception in him." "Let me examine him directly," Voldemort demanded. "Bring him closer." Quirrell grabbed Harry's arm, and immediately, searing pain scorched through Harry's scar, but something else happened too. Quirrell released him with a howl of agony, staring at his blistering fingers. "Master, I cannot touch him, it burns." Quirrell cried. "Then kill him, fool!" Voldemort screamed. Quirrell raised his wand, but Harry was faster. Years of combat training with Lysander took over as he moved with vampire speed, launching himself at Quirrell before the professor could cast a spell. Harry grabbed Quirrell's face with both hands, simultaneously drawing his nightshade wand with vampire swiftness. The effect was instantaneous and horrifying. Where Harry's skin contacted Quirrell's, the professor's flesh blistered and burned as if touched by acid. Quirrell screamed in agony while Voldemort shrieked in fury. Separo parasitum. Harry shouted, casting a specialized exorcism spell Elisa Beta had taught him for precisely this scenario. A blinding flash of silver light erupted where Harry's wand contacted Quirrell's body. The professor collapsed, and a smoky, wraith-like form tore itself away from him, Voldemort's spirit, forcibly separated by the vampire blood magic in Harry's spell. The wraith hovered momentarily, its red eyes fixed on Harry with pure hatred. "This is not over, Potter Nightshade," it hissed in that high, cold voice. "Your dual nature merely delays the inevitable. We will meet again." The spirit rushed at Harry, passing through his body like ice-cold water. Pain beyond imagination exploded in Harry's scar as his vampire defenses fought against the spiritual assault. He collapsed to his knees, blood trickling from his nose and ears as his hybrid physiology battled the intrusion. Through sheer force of will, Harry remained conscious long enough to see the wraith flee through the chamber wall. Quirrell lay unmoving on the stone floor, his body terribly burned where Harry had touched him. The Philosopher's Stone remained safe in Harry's pocket as darkness finally claimed him. When Harry regained consciousness, the familiar scent of the hospital wing surrounded him. His enhanced hearing detected someone breathing nearby before his eyes could focus on Dumbledore sitting beside his bed. "Good afternoon, Harry," the headmaster said gently. Harry blinked, memories flooding back. The stone, Quirrell, Voldemort. "Calm yourself, my boy. You've been unconscious for 3 days, but the danger has passed. The stone is safe, Professor Quirrell is no longer with us, and Voldemort has once again been thwarted, thanks in no small part to your extraordinary actions." Harry sat up carefully, noting the pile of sweets and cards on his bedside table, and more surprisingly, a vase containing a single black rose with crimson edges, the Nightshade clan's traditional symbol. "My mother knows?" he asked, gesturing to the flower. "Indeed," Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. "Lady Elisa Beta and I have had several fascinating conversations in your absence. She arrived within hours of your confrontation with Quirrell, apparently alerted by some monitoring charm she had placed upon you. The blood bond," Harry explained. "It allows her to sense when I'm in mortal danger." "Most useful," Dumbledore observed. "And it led to what I believe may be the first cooperative meeting between the Hogwarts headmaster and a vampire clan matriarch in recorded history. We found we have more common ground than either expected, particularly regarding your welfare and Voldemort's return." Harry processed this information, then asked, "What happened to the stone?" "It has been destroyed," Dumbledore replied. "Nicholas and I had a little chat and agreed it was best. He and Perenelle have enough elixir to set their affairs in order before they move on." "And Quirrell did not survive your confrontation," Dumbledore said solemnly. "The combination of Voldemort's possession, your mother's protection through your touch, and the vampire-based exorcism spell you cast proved too much for his body to withstand." Harry absorbed this soberly. "I didn't mean to kill him." "Of course not," Dumbledore assured him. "The responsibility lies with Voldemort, not you. Which brings me to another matter, this remarkable spell you cast. Separo parasitum, I believe. Not standard Hogwarts curriculum. Vampire defensive magic," Harry explained. "Elisa Beta insisted I learn it after we suspected possession might be involved. It's specifically designed to separate parasitic entities from hosts." "Fascinating," Dumbledore leaned forward. "And potentially revolutionary for dealing with certain dark magic situations. Your unique position between wizard and vampire traditions offers possibilities that neither world has fully explored." The conversation shifted to other aspects of Harry's adventure. Ron and Hermione were both fine, the school was awash with rumors about what had happened, and exams had been held despite the excitement. Thanks to Hermione's rigorous study schedule, Harry had actually managed to pass with good marks despite his absence. "There's one more thing I'd like to understand, Harry," Dumbledore said thoughtfully. "When you encountered Quirrell, why was he unable to touch you?" "My mother's sacrifice," Harry replied. "Elisabetta explained it years ago. When my birth mother died to save me, she left a protection in my blood. Love magic, ancient and powerful." "Precisely," Dumbledore nodded approvingly. "And what makes this particularly remarkable is that this protection remained even after your vampire blood adoption. Many would have expected such dark magic, forgive me, but that is how the Ministry classifies vampire rituals, to override Lily's protection. Instead, the two forms of blood magic seem to have integrated, perhaps even strengthened each other." "The bridge between worlds," Harry murmured, recalling Firenze's words. "Indeed." Dumbledore's expression grew serious. "Which brings us to Lord Sanguis and his apparent alliance with Voldemort. A most disturbing development." "They're using each other," Harry explained. "Sanguis believes vampire prophecies mark me as either salvation or destruction for their kind. He's trying to eliminate the threat I represent while using Voldemort's return to advance vampire separatism. While Voldemort sees vampire allies as useful pawns in his larger schemes," Dumbledore finished. "A dangerous game for both. Your mother and I have already begun coordinating intelligence on both fronts, another historic first in wizard-vampire relations." Before Harry could respond, the hospital wing doors opened to admit Elisabetta herself, her elegant presence causing Madame Pomfrey to drop a tray of potions in surprise. "Mother," Harry greeted her, genuine warmth in his voice. "Harry." She moved to his bedside with preternatural grace, briefly touching his cheek in the subtle gesture of affection he'd grown to recognize over the years. "You appear remarkably intact for someone who battled the Dark Lord and survived a vampire blood exorcism." "Hybrid constitution," Harry replied with a small smile. "Apparently I heal faster than expected." "Indeed." She turned to Dumbledore. "Headmaster, if I might have a moment with my son." "Of course." Dumbledore rose. "We've made excellent progress on our mutual concerns, and I believe Harry will be pleased with the summer arrangements we've discussed. I'll leave you to explain." After Dumbledore departed, Elisabetta sat gracefully in the chair he'd vacated. "You performed admirably under extraordinary pressure," she said without preamble. "Lysander reviewed the spell residue in the chamber and was, though he would never admit it directly, impressed by your execution of the exorcism." "High praise," Harry acknowledged, knowing his brother's reluctance to offer compliments. "What's happening with Sanguis?" "He's retreated to his stronghold after your success against Voldemort," Elisabetta explained. "Our intelligence suggests the temporary alliance is fracturing. Voldemort's defeat has made Sanguis reconsider the wisdom of their arrangement. But he still considers me a threat." "He does, though your actions have complicated his narrative. You used vampire blood magic to defeat a dark wizard, precisely the integration of powers that contradicts his separatist ideology." Harry nodded thoughtfully. "And these summer arrangements Dumbledore mentioned?" "We've devised a rather elegant solution," Elisabetta said with satisfaction. "You'll spend the first 2 weeks at the sanctuary as planned, followed by a week with the Weasley family." "The Weasleys?" Harry interrupted in surprise. "Yes. Molly Weasley has formally invited you to stay. Apparently her son speaks highly of his friendship with you, and Arthur is quite interested in learning more about vampire-wizard cooperation. I've arranged appropriate security measures." "That's brilliant," Harry said, genuinely pleased. "And after that?" "Something unprecedented," Elisabetta continued. "Dumbledore has proposed, and I have accepted, a joint wizard-vampire summer training program. Selected students, including your friends Mr. Weasley and Miss Granger, will receive instruction in defensive magic from both traditions under controlled circumstances." Harry stared at her in amazement. "You're going to teach wizard children vampire magic?" "Modified versions, with appropriate limitations," she clarified. And Dumbledore will provide wizard instructors for aspects beyond my expertise. The goal is preparation. Both Voldemort and Sanguis represent ideological extremes that threaten peaceful coexistence. This program acknowledges that neither world can face these threats in isolation. The bridge between worlds, Harry murmured again. Precisely. Elisabetta's eyes gleamed with rare emotion. You have already begun to fulfill aspects of both prophecies, Harry, not as an instrument of fate but through your own choices and actions. By embracing both your heritages rather than choosing between them, you create possibilities neither world imagined. When Harry was finally released from the hospital wing the following day, he found Hogwarts buzzing with end-of-term excitement. The story of his confrontation with Quirrell had spread throughout the school, growing more elaborate with each retelling. Some versions claimed he transformed into a bat and devoured Quirrell, courtesy of Peeves, while others suggested he'd used forbidden vampire mind control to defeat Voldemort, popular among Slytherins. Ron and Hermione met him in the entrance hall, both looking relieved to see him up and about. Bloody hell, mate, Ron greeted him. You had us worried. How many lives have you got left? At least 7, Harry joked. Though I don't actually transform into a cat, despite what Seamus has been telling everyone. The rumors are completely ridiculous, Hermione agreed, hugging him briefly. Though I'm still not clear on exactly what happened down there with Quirrell. I'll explain everything, Harry promised. But first, how did you two get out? The last I saw, Ron was unconscious after that chess game. Dumbledore found us, Hermione explained. He arrived just as I was trying to revive Ron. Said something about London being a trap and rushed ahead to find you. Just in time too, Ron added. I had a nasty bump on the head. They found a quiet spot by the lake, and Harry recounted the full story of his confrontation with Quirrell/Voldemort, the extraction of the stone from the mirror, and the vampire exorcism spell that had separated Voldemort's spirit from his host. Blimey, Ron whispered when Harry finished. You actually used vampire magic against you-know-who? That's revolutionary, Hermione supplied, her mind clearly racing with implications. It suggests entirely new approaches to combating dark magic. No wonder your mother and Dumbledore are organizing that summer program. You know about that already? Harry asked in surprise. Dumbledore asked my parents yesterday, she confirmed excitedly. They were hesitant until he explained it would be under both wizard and vampire supervision. The educational opportunity was too good to pass up. My parents too, Ron added. Though Mum needed some convincing. Fred and George are furious they weren't invited. It's only for students who already know about my heritage, Harry explained. Too many security concerns otherwise. The final days of term passed quickly. The end-of-year feast featured Slytherin decorations initially, they had won the House Cup, until Dumbledore awarded last-minute points to Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville for their various roles in the Stone Adventure, pushing Gryffindor into first place. As the Hogwarts Express carried them back to London, Harry reflected on how dramatically his life had changed in the past year. He had successfully integrated his vampire abilities with his wizard education, formed genuine friendships that bridged both worlds, and faced the first direct confrontation with the dark forces that threatened his unique position. What do you think you-know-who will do now? Ron asked as they changed out of their wizard robes into Muggle clothing. Regroup, Harry replied grimly. And likely reconsider his alliance with Sanguis. Their goals ultimately conflict too much for long-term cooperation. And Sanguis? Hermione questioned. Will he continue targeting you? Probably, though more cautiously now. My using vampire magic against Voldemort challenges his narrative that I'm a threat to vampire kind. Harry smiled slightly. It's rather poetic, by trying to eliminate me as the bridge between worlds, he's actually forcing those worlds to cooperate against common threats. As they disembarked at platform 9 3/4, Harry spotted both the Weasleys and Grangers waiting near the barrier. Beyond them, standing slightly apart but commanding attention nonetheless, were Elisabetta and Lysander, their elegant presence drawing curious and sometimes fearful glances from other magical families. "Your family's here too," Ron observed, noticing Harry's gaze. "Both my families are here," Harry corrected with a smile. "And for the first time, they're not separate worlds anymore." He moved toward his vampire family first, accepting Elisabetta's formal greeting and Lysander's approving nod before turning to introduce them properly to the Weasleys and Grangers. Initial tension gave way to cautious conversation as magical and muggle parents found common ground in their concern for their children's education and safety. As Harry watched these previously separate parts of his life beginning to intertwine, he realized he was witnessing the first tentative steps toward the bridge between worlds that both prophecies had foretold. Not through dramatic magical events but through these small moments of understanding and cooperation. Whatever challenges lay ahead from Voldemort, Sanguis, or forces yet unknown, Harry Potter Nightshade would face them not by choosing between his wizard heritage and vampire adoption, but by embracing the unique strength that came from being both, the twice-marked one who refused to let artificial boundaries limit what was possible when different magical traditions worked together rather than against each other. "Ready to go home?" Elisabetta asked as the initial introductions concluded. "Yes," Harry replied confidently. "Though I'm beginning to think home isn't just a place anymore." As they departed the station, vampire clan members, wizard family, and muggle parents walking side by side, Harry felt a sense of possibility that transcended the conflicts threatening the magical world. The bridge between worlds was forming, not just within him but around him, creating connections that neither Voldemort nor Sanguis had anticipated in their schemes. It was, Harry reflected as he stepped into the sunlight, a most promising beginning. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.